All right, a Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Jack Johnson hanging out here for the next 4 hours. We'll talk some baseball today. We'll talk some NFL football. We'll see if stuff will work around here. 913-912-4810 is the text line. What's up, fellas? Huh? Good weekend?
Yeah.
Good.
Fantastic. Great
Good.
weekend.
It was a good weekend, wasn't it? What was your favorite KC win? Was it the Chiefs over the Ravens? Was it the current winning? Was it the Royals? Or was it the Royals? Or was it the Royals? Which one was your favorite win from Thursday night on? I just can't. You know, it's like a Sophie's choice. How do you choose between all of those? I mean, that is so difficult to do, man. I don't know. I'd probably say KC winning. The KC win was probably the one that was the most enjoyable from the weekend. It was very good. But no, seriously, it was a fantastic weekend for the Chiefs in beating the Ravens, watching what was going on with some other teams that are, you know, quote-unquote contenders in the AFC. And then the Royals not only snapping a 7-game skid on Wednesday, and we had talked that morning about the importance of maybe just getting that win before you go into an off day. As Denny Matthews would always say, a true off day. There's only one true off day in Major League Baseball. When you go to sleep in your bed, you don't have a game, and you go to sleep in your bed. Yeah. It's the only time it's a true off day in Major League Baseball. The Royals had one of those on Thursday, breaking their 14 games in 13 days stretch. They win on Wednesday. Relax a little bit, right? Maybe stop pressing, then have a day off, relax a little bit more, and then go and sweep the Minnesota Twins. And whether it was the offense continuing to look like the offense did, doesn't matter. Wins are wins are wins. And the pitching staff and the bullpen has been absolutely brilliant in these last 4 games since going on the 7-game losing streak. And we know the offense was pathetic and anemic through most of those 7 games and the 7-game losing streak. But now 4 games in a row. And this 20-game stretch that we talked about, how crucial it was that this Royals team was going to go through this massive stretch of tough baseball where they were going to face all of these first-place teams in back-to-back-to-back-to-back-to-back games and series. And in these 20 games so far, 17 that they've played, they are 8-9 with a 7-game losing streak mixed in. They are 8-9. They've got a chance to go 500 in this 20-game stretch. They would have to take 2 of 3 from the Yankees. But even if they lose the series and win 1 of 2, how many of us would have settled out of court? Sterling, go ahead and take a drink.
Oh, yep, thirsty.
How many of us would have settled out of court in that 20-game stretch for a 9-11 record? I mean, I honestly, I would, with the way the Royals were sitting at that time, knowing what was ahead of them,
sure,
not knowing what they would look like in that stretch of baseball, first-place team after first-place team after first-place team, and pitching staffs after bullpens and lineups and their bullpen and some of the issues going on there. Like, what would they look like? And if you said they're going to have a 7-game losing streak in that mix, you're going to go, oh, no. Are they 5-15? Like, are they that bad? At worst, they're going to be 8-12. Not great. 8-12 is not great. But hopefully, 9, they get to, 500 or
sure,
above 500 and being 11-9. I don't think they're going to sweep the New York Yankees. If they do, they would have the season series against the Yankees as well, so they would have the tiebreaker over the Yankees and Guardians.
Why stop there? Sweep the rest of the season, Jason.
Keep going. Why lose again?
Come on.
Why lose again?
Moneyball streak.
Yeah,
That's exactly right. Why lose again? Win the last 18 games.
If it were me, I would simply just not lose. If it were me.
There's only – look, let's cut through the crap, Vaughn.
But I think you mentioned a really good point, though. The pitching staff and bullpen.
Yeah.
2 runs total given up against the Twins. 3 runs have been given up by the Royals in the past 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
This has been dominance, and it's a lot of 7 innings from the starter, go to Bubic for the 8th, go to Ursig for the 9th. There's not a whole bunch of circle of trust right now in that bullpen, but I think they trust Bubic and Ursig. If you can get 7 from your starter, which they've been able to, it's been nails.
So today we're going to talk with Josh Kaiser coming up about 11:40, 11:45 or so. Get his thoughts on this Royals team getting ready for this 3-game set against the Yankees before the schedule lightens up to a degree 3 in Pittsburgh. They've got 3 against Detroit, 3 against the Giants at home, and then they finish the season in a 6-game road trip versus the Nationals and then the Braves. 2.5 games out now, so the division is back in play from last Wednesday morning being 5.5 games out to now being 2.5 games out. And by the way, the schedules the rest of the way have now evened up with the Royals and the Guardians in how tough the schedules are. They roughly play an average, 500 teams. The strength of schedule the rest of the way, both of the Guardians and Royals right around 500. Maybe a little bit above 500 for the Royals, just slightly below 500 for the Guardians. But you're talking about splitting hairs. And so the Royals have an opportunity in front of them. They don't play the Guardians again, but the Guardians have 4 against Minnesota. They've got 3 against the Astros. They do have 3 against the White Sox coming up while the Royals play the Yankees. Guardians are playing the White Sox, so this is a crucial 3-game stretch.
Yeah.
The next 3 days could tell us a lot. 15 games remaining where the Royals are, but we'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up at about 11:40. We start our weekly conversations with Field Yates from ESPN, NFL Insider, coming up at noon. Talk with him about his observations from Week 1, what he saw from the Chiefs against the Ravens on Thursday night. What about the Chiefs and Bengals coming up on Sunday? And then we'll hear from Andy Reid, his press conference, Monday press conference. That comes up about 12:30 or so. Mick Schaefer, KSHB 41 sports director, and some learned funniest best. We'll try to get some college football mixed in as well. Mizzou and K-State stay undefeated. KU with a tough one at Illinois. Opportunities were there. Did not take advantage of some of those opportunities. But a quick side note, quick little sidebar. We'll have a deeper discussion in college football maybe tomorrow, certainly with our college football conversations that we have. And guess, quick sidebar on KU. It sucks if you're a KU fan that they lost. But how far they've come to where can they win a game or two to you're getting the field stormed by a Big Ten team in Illinois? I mean, the fans are rushing the field when they beat KU.
That is pretty wild.
After look,
KU rushing the field for winning a game.
Yeah, you don't prefer that. You'd prefer no court storm or no field rushing. But, hey, the fans came out onto the playing field surface. Okay, KU basketball, right? Not KU football.
Yeah, we get enough of that during the winter. So.
I don't know. It's probably a bitter consolation prize.
Silver lining.
Yeah. I mean, just like, okay, you lost. Here's something kind of cool, but it's still a loss.
It's like an eye for an eye because Iowa State beat ranked Iowa, then Illinois beat ranked Kansas. So.
Yeah, that's right. But KU falls out of the top 25. Mizzou and K-State move up 3 spots each. Mizzou number 6 and K-State now number 14. And the SEC has 6 of the top 7 teams in America in the AP top 25. Notre Dame really showing out this weekend. Notre Dame really showing.
Glad. Thank you, Northern Illinois. Thank you.
Northern Iowa, Northern Illinois, Northern Indiana, Northern School, whatever it is, man.
NIU.
Go and get that win. Boy, did that not have App State, Michigan feels with the blocked field goal? I mean, it just felt like almost the same, besides the picking it up and running, just the blocked field goal and the storming the field and the crying going on with the coach after the game. Like, it had real App State, Michigan feels, only Notre Dame was trying to make a college football playoff this year and win a national championship, and their schedule was pretty light the rest of the way, except for a trip to USC later on this year, and they lost to Northern Illinois. Woo!
I was at Hollywood Casino watching this, actually.
Illinois had a great weekend.
It was electric.
Yeah, Illinois beating top 25 teams.
I would give K-State a shout-out, too.
Yeah.
Just for that win over Tulane. Tulane, that quarterback, my goodness, played a really good game. K-State struggled early. Avery Johnson somewhat struggled early. Finding a way to scratch and claw and come away with a victory. Again, I get Tulane's not this powerhouse name. They're New Orleans. That's great for K-State. That's a resume booster, in my opinion, as a non-con game for sure.
Can I just say, again, this is a quick aside with college football, but still, with the K-State game, do the kids still say miss me with the thing? Miss me with this? Do the kids still say that, or is that sort of past? I don't know. Like, I'll say it anyway.
Are you saying, is that mad cool? Are you from Jersey now?
It's tight. That's pretty tight. that's pretty tight. Miss me with the complaining about the offensive pass interference late in the game with Tulane. The refs screwed him and cost him a win. That was a fumble on the kickoff. After the scoop and score, Tulane fumbled and K-State recovered it. And they went with the call on the field, not enough video evidence. There was plenty of video evidence. His knee was not down. His arms weren't down. The ball was loose. K-State recovered it, and they went with the call on the field. That's K-State's ball at the Tulane 20-yard line, up 7 with 8 minutes to go. That pass interference, call, non-call, controversial, doesn't happen and doesn't matter if that call is made correctly. So I don't care about the pass interference late in the game. You can complain about that all you want. You fumbled the ball and turned it over inside your own 20 after a scoop and score that had plenty of video evidence to reverse the call. So, you know.
Speaking of weird things that happen in any three of these games, I saw something that I've never seen in the football game before, and I actually didn't know was the rule at all. In the KU-Illinois game, the muff punt that went to the end zone, that can be a touchback for the team that is returning. I thought at that point, if I'm a returner, so this happened, I don't know if you had seen it, Sterling.
They muffed it at like the 18-yard line.
Illinois muffed it. The ball rolls into the end zone. Illinois falls on their muff putt in the end zone, yet it's a touchback. Illinois keeps the ball, gains field position.
There's no possession.
That led to the game-winning drive for Illinois.
What?
And I thought, I don't know if that's an NFL rule. I guess it's just college. I've literally never seen that. When that happened,
it's an
that's
NFL
the game.
It's an NFL rule.
That's the NFL rule. Okay, so I wonder if I'm a punt returner and I'm at the 5-yard line, why not just take it, muff it right into the end zone, kick it out of bounds?
The risk, I guess.
It's dangerous because it's a touchdown if they recover it.
It's almost like
because typically if you're at the 5, it's probably got some hang time and you got some guys around you.
Sure,
it's dangerous.
They gained field position,
but it's like a shortstop. We get a line drive hit. There's a guy in first and second.
Just
drop it and try and turn 2.
You're saying that's infield fly.
It's like
in punt fly.
In punt fly.
Inside 10 fly rule in the NFL. I've seen it before, and it's funny because. We were watching my son and daughter. I took them to the high school game last year. It was Dave Merritt versus Matt Nagy, and their sons playing Blue Valley Northwest, Southwest, East Central, South Central. I think it was Blue Valley South Central played in that game. I'm not sure.
Doesn't sound right.
I'm positive it was Blue Valley versus Blue Valley South Central. South Central BV, which is what a lot of the West Coast rap is about. But there was that play, and I was on I don't remember who fumbled or whatever, but I was on the side of the punting team. All right, we were watching it from the sideline of the punting team. And the ball is muffed at the 10-yard line, goes back into the end zone, recovered by the team that muffed it. And I say to my son, I go, this place is about to erupt because that's a touchback. And I say it loud enough so that other people around can hear it, so they're prepared for that. And I'm like, this is one of those quirky rules. I was like, this is a touchback, Bubba. He's like, why? They land. I'm like, I know it should be a safety. It seems like it's a safety, but technically nobody had possession of the ball, and it was recovered in the end zone. The defense didn't cover it, so therefore you don't sort of get that like out. It's in the end zone, and it's going to be a touchback. They come together. They call a touchback. The sideline just goes crazy. Somebody stands up. Explain to me how that's not a safety. I said to my son, I'm like, I could, but I don't want to talk to that guy
Jason
right now.
didn't stand up.
I ain't talking to that guy right now.
Oh, fella, do I have a story for you?
I ain't talking to that guy right now. Dude, everybody was going crazy and screaming and yelling, and I'm like, that's the right call. It's a terrible rule. Seems pretty dumb, but
That's
it's
a dumb rule.
It's the rule.
That's a dumb rule.
Them's the rules.
Also, what's better, the Royals pitching or the Mizzou Tigers defense right now?
Yes.
Not allowing any points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Royals gave up 2 runs. Mizzou was not giving up a point, so it's got to be Mizzou's
Well, the
defense.
oh yeah, it was the last 2 Royals games where they gave up the 2 runs.
Yeah.
It was 0-2-0.
Yeah. But yeah, it is an odd rule. It's one of those to where people argue about fumbling through the end zone. Why is that, going out of bounds past the goal line different than going out of bounds at the 1-yard line, right? It's because the goal line is different, obviously. But it's like, here are the rules, how they're adjudicated, and muffing it into the end zone. it's a risky strategy if you were going to do that. If it's a
gotta be
line drive,
airtight.
But if it's a line drive, you might just get out of the way and let it bounce into the end zone anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Why do they have a guy lined up 10 yards in the end zone behind the returner?
I'm following.
They have a guy lined up in.
Brilliant.
That's
Right.
They have those dual punt returner systems all the
Just
time.
do the 49ers
The
play,
guy
let
just-
it bounce off your foot, go backwards.
Can you, I mean, in volleyball, you know, it's called like a lift, right? Instead of a set. Can you do like one where you sort of sweep the ball over to somebody else so you don't
Oh,
fully
yeah.
have possession, but you just sort of sweep
Kick it.
to
Just
the
kick
guy?
it back. Kick it out of
Can't
the end
illegal
zone.
kick it. That's going to be a penalty. So, well, I guess, you know, well, penalty from the 20, then you're
What
still
if it's an
looking at sort of the
accidental
same thing. I don't know. I think they can pretty much see that it would be a good enough.
Like
you
an
know,
oopsies.
I don't know. Can you oopsie kick? I mean, even Nebraska tried to play it off like it was an oopsie kick, but that was definitely the kick six, whatever. Well, that wasn't the kick six. That was the kick six was Alabama Auburn, whatever it was with Nebraska. The stupid ass kicked the ball into the air. Nebraska wins that game. And, national champions. Sure, you cheated. Whatever. But yeah, I don't know if you could do that. Just sort of sweep your hands while throwing it to a teammate there. But yeah, it was an interesting weekend college football wise. The Royals and an interesting weekend for the Chiefs. And we're going to get at 11 o'clock. We're going to go through some reactions from the weekend. We're each going to have 3 reactions that we had from the weekend of week 1 in the NFL. And then the rest of us will decide if that's legit or if one of us is overreacting to something there. Because we always have the reactions and overreactions with the first week of the season. So we'll do that coming up at 11 o'clock. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I want to talk about the Royals getting ready for the Yankees and the Guardians. 2.5 games back. They are closer to the division than they are to the number 1 wild card. They are 95% chance of making the playoffs. Everybody good now? Everybody calm down?
I'm glad no one panicked, myself included, right, guys?
Exactly,
I
Sterling.
was not the one nervous.
I was trying to tell everybody last week, look, the math, I mean, yes, it's better that they start winning, certainly, but they weren't going to lose the rest of the season. They were going to start winning eventually. They just were going through a tough stretch. But it would have taken a catastrophic collapse for the Royals not to make the playoffs, and it would take a Herculean, catastrophic, mammoth, historical collapse. Hercules. Thank you, Dylan. Dylan's back there doing a
Clapping for yeah.
Hercules.
Forgot it's a radio medium, so you know
Hercules.
audio.
It would take that kind of a collapse for the Royals not to make the playoffs. 95% chance. It's just a matter of, are they the division winners? Are they the second wild card, third wild card? Are they the first wild card? Who knows? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone next. part of the conversation. Can the Royals catch the Guardians? Is it focused on wild card? Is there like that slight chance of just outside looking in, 18 games remaining? They need to be 2.5 games better than the Guardians because they've got the season tiebreaker. That's good. They've got to be better than the Orioles and better than the Twins to win those, season series, more than likely the Yankees as well. But the season series against the Guardians, they have a 17% chance at Fangraphs to win the division, 95% chance to make the playoffs. How much is 17% right around where you would put it? Or do you think there's a better chance? Like, I think some of that just takes in the overall algorithm of what the season has done, strength of schedule remaining, what your schedule is. I don't know how much it takes into account the fact that Cleveland, over the last, since they were 24 games over 500, which was their season high, which is amazing, 24 games above 500, they're 24-29. Since the All-Star break, they're 23-28. Since they swept the Cubs and took the final two against the Twins, then swept the Cubs, they're 9-13. That's how they're finishing the season. I don't know if Fangraphs takes all of that into account or if it's just, here's what the Guardians have done, here's their season numbers, here's the strength of schedule, here are the teams, their season numbers, here's historically what a 2.5 game lead would mean with 19 for the Guardians games to play for them to win the division. Is 17 right, or do the Royals, because of how they're playing, which, by the way, is 22-16 since they lost that Arizona and Chicago Cubs series, 27-20 since the All-Star break, they're playing much different baseball. So is 17% right, or do you think maybe it's like a 1-in-3 chance the rest of the way that they can catch the Guardians?
If I was going to raise it a little bit, I'd probably only go up to 20%, mainly because of this series to open up this week. Mm-hmm. The Royals have to go to the Bronx. Cleveland gets to host the worst team that professional sports has ever seen.
I think they're in Chicago.
It's
but
in Chicago.
Yeah, sorry.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, right?
There will be more Cleveland fans there than the White Sox, so they'll be hosting. Yeah. so they might as well host.
Though Cleveland has lost, I think, 5 times to the White Sox this year. So I think the odds would tell me they're not going to lose any more games to the White Sox at this point. But I think if you look at it, let's say for the hypothetical here, the Royals take 1 in New York and Cleveland sweeps Chicago, as they'll be projected to do. That then puts you 2 more, 4.5 back with 15 to go.
Yeah,
and you don't face Cleveland again.
Rough.
So it kind of comes down to you have to play your best baseball of the year. They have to play their worst baseball of the year. But again, I since that 7-game losing streak wrapped up, I haven't looked at the division and said, it's make or break there. We all know that the make or break was just making the postseason once they'd put themselves in a really good spot. To me, I think all the focus should be looking at this second wild card spot, because actually from a personal standpoint, I think baseball has looked at that third wild card spot as it's a little bit dumb, right? That there shouldn't be a third wild card team. There should be 2. And for the Royals to get that second wild card spot in a year that the American League Central will have 4 teams over 500, I think that's something you could absolutely hang your hat on, and that this wasn't a fluke. This was a good baseball team. They were able to sweep a team that was right there with them in Minnesota toward the end of the year. We'll see how they'll fare against New York. But as for the division, I mean, I would hope they would get there because that would give you a home playoff game. But to me, it's got to be focused on this second wild card spot, because that will be the difference in them either going to Houston for the wild card series or going to New York or Baltimore for the wild card series, which in my opinion, it doesn't really matter who you run into in the American League side. They're all good. There's no bad team that's squeaking into the American League side. So give me whoever would have the most pressure on them. And to me, I think that would be the New York Yankees. So maybe this is a little bit of a preview of the wild card series here in a few weeks.
Well, and the thing about like the way that Cleveland's playing right now and the way that Houston is playing right now, because I think they are 4 games back of Cleveland, the Astros are, for that second seed in the American League.
They are 4 games back.
And they finished the season the last 3 games of the season is Houston and Cleveland playing each other. So it may be that Cleveland is the number 3 seed or the American League Central Division winner is the number 3 seed. And at that point, like, I'd kind of prefer to be the third wild card if that's the case. Like, if I can choose between going to Cleveland or going to Baltimore or New York. I think the second wild card should get their choice. Second wild
I've
card.
said this with all sports. How great would it
Should
be
get their
if you
choice.
get to choose who you play?
Well, I guess technically it would be the number 3 seed and the 4 seed getting to choose who they would play. But like,
Because the first two would have. I've said for all sports. How great would that be? The trash talking.
who would Cleveland choose? Like, would they choose Minnesota? Would they choose the Royals? Would they choose?
I think you'd have to take Minnesota because they played much better against Minnesota this year.
I know. So it would still end up being Kansas City heading to Baltimore or New York. But I'm looking at that. I'm like, man, you almost prefer to be the final wild card to go. But at that point, like, it's first world problems, right? Yeah. It's like you're making the playoffs, and now you're, I guess. You're almost lamenting the fact that you have a good team that you've got to play in the playoffs. Like, damn it. They made the playoffs, and now they got to play a playoff team? Well, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to fare against this playoff team in the playoffs.
What are the White Sox? Can we choose the White Sox for the first round in the playoffs, please?
Can we?
The divisional
Is that
series?
a choice?
Can they be?
Is that a choice? Can we do that? That would be great. Who do the White Sox finish up against? That's kind of they finish up at Detroit. So Detroit gets 3 games against the White Sox. So Detroit gets 3 layups. They're 3.5 games back in Minnesota, and they've got 3 layups at the end.
Peyton Manning had a great quote back in the day, 2006, when they had never gotten over the Patriots, and they were like, "Don't you want it to be this way in the championship, playing the Patriots?" Like, no, I'd rather play like Oakland or Cincinnati, someone that finished last in the league this year. I don't want to play the Patriots. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, like it is brag worthy, and now that it's finished, you put it up there with one of the greatest runs in postseason history for the Chiefs, in having the absolute toughest road that any Super Bowl champion has ever faced in the history of the game. That's awesome. You have that feather in your cap forever. But I wouldn't choose that. I would have chosen an easier path for the Chiefs, not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing they were going to go to Buffalo and those plays late were going to be made, go to Baltimore, plays late were going to be made, San Francisco, neutral site, plays late were going to be made. I would have chosen a different path for the Chiefs. But they have that. It's great now after the fact because, hell yeah, they just went through. It's part of the dynastic conversation of what the Chiefs are in the history of the NFL, in that they have that feather in their cap. They've got that extra, notch on their belt. They win 3 in a row with that run as well. Now it's like, okay, they're the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL. You got Patriots, 2 different dynasties, whatever. If you want to talk about one stretch of football, it would be the greatest ever. But like in college basketball, I don't care if you have all bad. Like, does anybody care in 2008 of KU's run to get to the Final Four? Does anybody care of what KU did to get to the Final Four? Do we look back and go, I mean, yeah, they won the Final Four with the first ever all 4 number 1 seeds in there, but they played like a 16 and a 9 and a 13 and a 10 to get there. I mean, the road was easy. Well, yeah, but then they had to beat 2 number 1 seeds. Yeah, but the road to get there was just paved in gold for them. Like, who cares? They won the national title. They won 6 games, and they beat 2 number 1 seeds on their way to winning the national championship.
And Steph Curry at his height, almost.
Yes. I mean, Steph Curry, although he didn't take the last shot, so that was smart.
I don't know. That Princeton team was pretty good, so I don't.
That was one of those anyone but Steph plays on defense.
5 players surround Steph. Anybody else can shoot it, but this guy's not shooting it. But yeah, like I don't. It's like with the Royals, I would love the White Sox to be in the playoffs. I would love for them to get to choose the White Sox. But again, it's one of those to where if they make the playoffs, I'm not going to do much complaining about who they have to play in the first round of the playoffs. You got to go to Baltimore. Sign me up. Let's go. Let's do it. You got to go to Cleveland. You got to go to New York. You got to go wherever. Sign me up. Let's go. Let's do it. Because when they made the wild card in 2014, it was like, man, now you got to go to L.A.
Yeah. Oh, Mike Trout?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Pujols, Hamilton.
Yeah, now you got to go and face off against Baltimore. I mean, okay, you've had a nice run, but, good luck. And they took care of business. Not saying the same team, but they took care. We've seen that before when you're sort of worried about that opponent and having to go on the road and face those games.
I think what's so fun about this idea of October is that, again, I think even including the National League here, the Royals will be the one team entering it that I think, nobody really wants to face because they've already achieved the impossible. Nobody thought they would get all the way here to the postseason. And the teams they could be stacked up against, right? Baltimore last year wins 100 games. They're the number 1 seed, swept out of the postseason. If Kansas City goes to Baltimore, that is all the pressure in the world on Baltimore of not only do you need to dominate Kansas City in this series, you need to make a deep run. New York, the exact same thing. They are 15 years removed from their last World Series. You can't host the Royals in the Wild Card Series and lose 2 of 3 in New York with a team that lost 106 games last year. Okay, let's go one step. I think the only team that would have virtually no pressure on the American League side, which is crazy to say, is Houston, because they were awful in April. They rebounded from a terrible start. They've already won a handful of World Series. So if they miss out this year, it's, well, we weren't supposed to be here, and we're always good in October. And the Royals, to me, are right below them as they could go in. No, you don't want to see them get stomped in the way Miami got stomped last year in Philly when they had their improbable run. But I don't think people want to see the Royals, because of that rotation, and they're getting stronger at this point. They've been phenomenal even during the losing streak. But you look at who you'd be stacked up against, right? Cleveland, they have a better record than the Royals. They've been really good this year. Their number 1 would be Tanner Bybee.
Yeah.
Their number 2 would be, I'm even blanking on Gavin Williams, probably. And you'd have to go Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha in a best-of-3 series. And I don't think a lot of teams out there. I mean, Baltimore, they'd go from Corbin Burns. It'd be Reagans versus Burns, who those two have faced already twice in the regular season. And then you'd have to go through Lugo, and maybe it'd be Wacha piggybacked by Brady Singer. That's why I think a lot of teams don't want to face the Royals. And B, they've got Bobby Witt Jr. I don't think you want to face an MVP candidate at any point in the postseason. So a lot of teams right now, I think, considering what the Royals have done just over the past weekend, they're looking at Kansas City as a team you really don't want to run into because they're so inexperienced. They are young. They've got nothing to lose. They have already achieved what nobody thought would be possible, and that's a dangerous thing come October.
Yeah, the Orioles would have Burns, Eflin, and then I don't know what the Game 3 would be for the Orioles. I'm not sure, but that would be a hell of a pitching matchup. You got Reagans, Burns, Eflin, Lugo, and then hopefully you're done and the Royals head back home. Or you're getting ready for a Game 3, and, it's a Game 3 wild card finale there in Baltimore.
I want the Royals to go to New York and kick some Yankee ass.
Yeah.
I want to see Bobby Witt Jr. hit all these Little League home runs in that Little League sandbox ballpark. I want to see Salvador Perez, Mr. Captain Clutch, out there put another little feather in the Royals over the Yankees. This is payback for the 80s. Okay, this is what
70s.
this is. 70s and 80s. This is payback time now. The Royals have won a World Series more recently than these billion-dollar Yankees. Go to New York. Kick that Yankee ass yet again. And again, I'm just saying, how great would it be? The whole MVP candidacy talk, and Bobby goes in there and just has himself a hell of a series. That's what I want to see.
Winning in New York these 3 games would go a long way for them to face New York in the wild card round as opposed to Baltimore right now, because that thing is really, really close. A half-game difference between Baltimore and New York. So yeah, I would definitely be in favor of that.
Do the division opponents, Jack? Does that make a difference as well as who wants to see who? I would say that last year's Arizona Diamondbacks Dodgers upset is largely due to the fact that they see each other so much. So I feel like the Guardians especially don't want to have us as the team that comes into that stadium.
It's weird because what Jack is talking about. I think if the playoffs ended right now with what the standings are, whether that's Yankees or Orioles, whatever seed they are, but they're in the playoffs. So the playoff teams being Yankees, Guardians, Astros, Orioles, Royals, and Twins. Twins have a 3.5 game lead in that third wild card. So odds are these are the 7 teams or 6 teams that are going to make it. It's baseball, not NFL. 6 teams make it in Major League Baseball. These are the 6 teams that are going to make it. It's an interesting point by Jack because you can make a case for 4 of the teams that they have a lot of pressure on them to do something in the postseason, where the Royals and the Astros might be the ones that don't. Like Cleveland, you can go, yeah, but Cleveland came out of nowhere, right? But Cleveland at times has had the best record in baseball, has been destroyed. They were up by 10 games in the American League Central at one point, barreling towards the number 1 seed. Is this a World Series caliber team? And then if they lose in the first round, or if they're the 2 seed and they lose in the divisional round, that's disappointing for what they've been all year long. They have pressure to do more than just simply lose the first round. Baltimore, like you talked about, 100 wins, lose in the first round. Yankees, $100 billion and to lose early. Minnesota, they were the favorites to win the Central. And for them to squeak in with the third wild card and then quickly lose would be a really disappointing season for the Twins, considering the expectations and the hope of what they could be this year. And if that were to happen, where the Royals were, 74.5 wins, 75 wins, what are they going to be? A sneaky team that could win the division. And they're right there, 2.5 games out of winning the division. But they would be, and Houston, like you talked about, like they would be the team that would be in the playoffs like, man, I can't believe we're here. I don't think the players would view it that way. But as far as like fans and pressure and what would be massive disappointing seasons, I think the Royals and Astros would be the only two to where if they lost in the first round, you would go, yeah, not great. You'd prefer something else. But given the expectations for the Royals this year, not terrible. Given the fact that Houston has had to scratch and claw just to get back in this position because they were, double-digit games out of first place, and now they're, battling for the number 2 or number 1 seed. They're a little further out for the number 1, but, there might be that little bit of they've had success in the postseason, and this, from the first month and a half, became a little bit unexpected for them. So
almost feels like the Chiefs last year to an extent, where the Astros are like, they're a great team, but they're struggling. They sneak their way into the playoffs, and they just find like, we've been here before. We know what to do once we get in the playoffs. They're going to find it. Like the Astros to me are maybe the most dangerous team.
Yeah. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. Coming up at 11 o'clock, we'll go through our NFL observations from Week 1. Each of us give out 3 observations. The rest of us will decide if that's just a good observation or if that's an overreaction. We'll do 3 reactions, overreactions coming up on the other side of the break, right at the top of the 11 o'clock hour. More Zone rolling along next. Get into some a lot of NFL talk in the next hour. We will go through our reactions from Week 1, decide if they are reactions or overreactions. Then we'll talk with Josh Kaiser coming up later on in the 11 o'clock hour. Talk some baseball with him. Field Yates from ESPN NFL Insider. We start our weekly conversations with him. He decided to take Labor Day off. I mean, who takes Labor Day off, right? I mean, who does that? I mean, come on.
I was here.
I know, right?
I was grinding. I would have talked to Field.
Sterling, you didn't take Labor Day off.
So Field bailed because it was me, probably.
He didn't. He was like, who's this Sterling fella? I said, is it Sterling Mahomes? I'm not talking to a child. I said, it's Sterling Holmes, but it's still a child. So, it's sort of tomato. It's tomato. Whatever. NFL talk next.
That was pretty good.
Over under number of series Aaron Rodgers plays this season. 1.5.
Gotta take the over.
Yeah, I'll take the over there, Jason.
Life's too short. Take the under.
Ooh, man. I've been waffling back and forth on this one. I'm leaning the over, but wouldn't be surprised if it's the under. So we'll see tonight.
I'll give you
Jets
5-1 odds for $5. I'll give you 25 if he plays one. You give me 5 if it's over.
Nope, I don't bet. You're never going to get me to bet, so no chance. No chance.
I bet you I can by the end of the week.
Deal. All right, let's get into our reactions from the NFL. We'll all go around. We've got 3 reactions, and we'll, ask the group if that's just a reaction or is that actually an overreaction in the minds of the other 3. We'll do one each going around, and then we'll get to all 3. But my number one reaction, or just one of the 3 reactions, I don't think it's number one. I'm not labeling it that way, but just one of the reactions. And my brother texted me this yesterday, and it's absolutely true. My reaction. One of my reactions from week 1 is that Jeff Darlington should never be allowed to cover a Chiefs game. Ever.
Yeah, what, Scotty Scheffler and then Tyreek Hill, right?
Like, he can't be in town to cover a Chiefs game. He's not allowed. The Chiefs should ban him. If Prime can ban somebody from the Denver Post or the Boulder Beefcakes, I'm not sure what the newspaper outlet he's with now, but if he can ban him from being there or not taking questions from him, then I think the Chiefs can ask the NFL, hey, we'll take less positive script of all the penalties that you guys call in our favor for us this year. We'll take a few less of those so that Jeff Darlington does not cover a game in Kansas City. That's one of my reactions, is Jeff Darlington can't come to Kansas City to cover a Chiefs game.
That's actually a good call.
Thank you.
Scotty, Tyreek. And these are top-of-the-line guys. We're not talking about,
Scotty Scheffler, the best golfer in the world. Tyreek Hill,
not
the
a third
best receiver.
safety out here. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So Mahomes and Kelsey would be in
yes,
trouble.
It would be right. Patrick Mahomes should have a police escort. He should be riding with the police. If Jeff Darlington is covering a game, then Mahomes and Kelsey should be riding with or Chris Jones. The top players should just be getting a police escort, a police ride along.
Yeah.
To the stadium. That's what should happen if Jeff Darlington. Sterling, one of your observations or reactions from the weekend?
Yeah, one of my main ones was the Panthers are somehow worse this year than last year, and I think they win 3 games or less. I think they're by far the worst team in the NFL. Bryce Young, I said at the time, I said I would not draft him 1-1. I said I was all C.J. Stroud. I have receipts on this. I was team C.J. I feel bad. I interviewed Bryce Young the morning he was drafted before, and super nice guy, right? But there are just some things, like just some of the mannerisms where I'm like, super nice, but I don't know how nice gets you in the NFL. You got to have a little bit of like, I'm the dude, confidence. Felt like it was lacking. And that I get that from a quick interview. I wonder how the front office guys were when they interviewed these guys.
Well, it doesn't help that you're not really tall, but you were still eating peanuts off his head.
I was
so
still,
that's
I
not,
was still, I
not
was
the best thing.
The same size as him, and I am not an NFL quarterback by any means. But they drafted an outlier. Outliers work. Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. Those are outliers. But 1-1 was bold, and he has weapons now. I'm not saying the Panthers are good. The team itself, not good. But Deontay Johnson gets open. They drafted Xavier Legette in the first round. Yeah. Jonathan Mingo in the second round last year. Adam Thielen is still there. They have 4 legit weapons, and he somehow looked worse than Bo Nix.
Yeah. So in year number 2.
Yeah.
I want to call that an overreaction. I really do, because one of my out on a limb predictions is not looking good after week 1, in that the Panthers would look better with a new regime, new coaching staff, and would win 5 games this year and challenge 3rd place in the division.
Oh yeah, I think you did take him 3rd, didn't you?
Yeah. It's not looking good. It's 1 week, okay? So sometimes these are reactions. I would like to say that's an overreaction, but it was so bad, and it just looked like a continuation of what last year looked like. So I'll lean more towards it. That's just
who wants to call am I bluffing, guys? Are you calling my bluff?
No, I don't think it's a bluff of saying it's a reaction.
It's a fact.
I just would love to. I would love for that to be an overreaction. Jack?
See, I guess I just didn't have as high of expectations of Carolina going into this year. Now, Bryce Young is somebody kind of like you. It didn't feel like they had to go with him 1-1, but even coming out of the draft, I know he's a little bit undersized. I didn't expect him to be this bad. But after having a little bit of the tape of year one, I just didn't see that big of a jump in year two, even if you gave him a better coaching staff, a better receiving core there. I think Carolina will slightly improve toward the end of the year. How much? I mean, you may go from a 2-win expectation to 4. It's not like that makes you feel much better, because then you would be going into year 3 of Bryce Young and go, is this it? Is this the final year you can make him your quarterback? Because that kind of leads into my overreaction, if you will, to the next team I talk about. But at least with Carolina, they are still incredibly young. Now, I do think there could be some entertaining football way down the road. I don't know if that involves Bryce Young being the quarterback there, but I still think that this could be viewed as a team that they tore everything down. They're trying to go from scratch again, and there are some exciting players, but it certainly was not exciting at all in that game against New Orleans.
And who knows when Jonathan Brooks will be healthy enough to actually make a difference for that team right now, because Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard are not getting it done there. It also doesn't help that you're down 20-0 early, so no reason to run the ball at that point. So
it should be easier to run if you do choose to, and it still wasn't.
That's probably right. Yes, Jack, reaction from the weekend?
I think this one is, again, like Sterling said, more of a fact than an overreaction. I think the Giants are the worst team in football.
Ooh, wow.
I think they are worse than Carolina. Here's why.
Overreaction.
If I can evaluate both here, if I can evaluate both these games, this is just after week 1.
Yeah.
Again, obviously I don't have a crystal ball for what it could be, but we went into this season thinking the Giants were going to be bad. Daniel Jones was going to be bad, and I think he took that to a new level on Sunday. He's taking on a Vikings team at home who had just lost their rookie quarterback for the year in J.J. McCarthy. So it's Sam Darnold out there. That game was never close. The Vikings won 28-6. Daniel Jones was awful in this game. He threw the ball 42 times and had 186 yards, 52.4 completion percentage, 2 interceptions, no pick, quarterback rating of 44.3. Leading rusher in the game for them, Devin Singletary, 10 for 37. I'm not going to go out there and say they'll never win a game, because I did that last year with Arizona. I thought Arizona was going to be an all-time bad. And would they win 3 games, 4 games? Maybe it was 5. I don't know. So I'm not going to go that far. It's hard to go winless in a 17-game slate. But I don't know how you can look at the Giants, think that Daniel Jones, as long as he's run out there, are going to improve at all. That's why with Carolina, I could see a slight improvement. Plus, they play in the NFC South. Yes, they played the Saints and got drubbed by, what did it end up being, 37?
Yeah, that might be the third-place team in the NFC South, though.
Possible. But I still think with the Giants, they have to worry about Dallas twice this year. They have to worry about the Eagles twice this year. And I don't think they are better than Washington, even with Washington being a very young and inexperienced type team. If Daniel Jones is continuously run out there, I don't know how they aren't going to be the worst team in football. They don't have Saquon Barkley anymore. Again, Devin Singletary was the leading rusher in this game. You had not a favorable matchup, but if they could have at least lost close to the Vikings and Sam Darnold, who's been a backup now for 2, 3, 4 years, they got smoked at home, 28-6. I'm sure they'll rattle off a couple. Maybe Daniel Jones plays well in a few of those games. But I look at when you go into the offseason and Daniel Jones is trashed on, is a terrible quarterback, he shouldn't be the quarterback, and then goes out and plays like that in week 1, I think with having one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL and not a lot around him, this is the worst team in football right now.
Overreaction.
I don't know. It's a compelling case. I have the Giants finishing last in that division already, but they're
not worse than the Panthers.
That on top of the Hard Knocks offseason, like game 1 on top of all the drama.
Yeah.
There is drama. Malik Neighbors says, I have no idea what's going on back there.
Yeah.
So
that was great.
He was the best player.
Well, Malik Neighbors at least was
great.
open all the time. So if you want some sort of like, there's a positive. Malik Neighbors was perpetually open.
These two teams do meet later on in the year, so we might get our answer.
Over under
two
is
winless
19.
teams.
It's an Iowa
turnovers?
game. It's an Iowa game.
Over under
just,
19 turnovers, 19 punts or 19 points. What are you going with?
That has to be Thursday Night Football. If I know Thursday Night Football good enough,
that's
that
probably
is a Thursday
overseas.
Night
That's probably the
Football game.
international game.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're gonna send that one to Portugal.
Wait,
I actually think
let
the
me check.
Giants play internationally, and someone
it
was
is the Panthers.
joking, and I think it might be that game.
Well,
It's something ugly.
It's ugly because the Giants are involved.
But now you look at
Yes, that's the Germany game.
Are you serious?
That's the 8:30 a.m.
Oh.
Germany game.
It's a good thing it won't
Sleepy.
be up for it.
We can all
We've
sleep
done a
through that
great
one.
job of growing the game this year already. In
That's,
Brazil and now that. So yeah,
They got Mac Jones against Jacksonville last year, too.
You know what? To the NFL's credit, there were way more brawls in the Chargers-Raiders game than there was in Brazil. So, I mean,
That's a good point.
they had a lot more protection there in Brazil than they did in L.A. for Chargers-Raiders, and we probably should have seen that one coming.
Get back to the old school Raiders, as he
That's
said
exactly
on
right.
podcasts all summer.
Yes.
So.
Also, why I think the Panthers are worse. This is bad news. Feel bad.
What?
Their best player is now probably done for the year, Derek Brown.
Oh, what? So what's the latest on that?
They discovered Pro Bowl defensive tackle Derek Brown had a potentially season-ending knee injury.
There's some rough. I mean, we'll still get an update. Waiting for an update on Puka Nacua, who was carted off at halftime. He did come back in the game for a little
Like
bit.
2 snaps.
Yeah. And then ended up leaving again. That would be absolutely rough. So yeah, there was some. I thought Jamison Williams' knee was torn up when he.
Oh, in that one play.
When it was the reverse, when he planted and the guy came
we
into
haven't
his
talked
knee.
about it, but Jordan Love.
Jordan Love,
that
right.
one.
They're talking about calling Ryan Tannehill, which, by the way, go do it. I mean, the Browns called Joe Flacco off the couch. Call Tannehill. If you want him to come in, but you got Jordan Love. I don't know how long he's going to be out, but yeah.
Malik Willis again getting taken up by Ryan.
Right, Malik Willis. What is it about? I mean, it's Will Levis, it's Ryan Tannehill. What's going on here?
Ryan Tannehill, baby.
Yes, that's right. Dylan, reaction from the weekend.
This is the one.
Just any of
them?
We're not really ranking them. Just 3 reactions, and then we get to decide if we agree that that's just a regular reaction, or if we think you're dumb and that's an overreaction.
Gotcha. So I'll stick with the kind of Stroud Bryce Young thing. I think Stroud or Bryce over Stroud will be the NFL's Greg Oden over Kevin Durant.
Interesting. I like that one.
Like it.
I like that one. It's not the.
I don't want to go Jordan.
You don't want to go
because we have Jordan. So
that's a great point. So Trubisky's already that.
Yeah,
yes,
Trubisky.
That is actually true.
Yeah.
That is what Trubisky is.
Fact. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that's true. I like that one. I don't know that that's an overreaction because from all indications, Frank Reich wanted C.J. Stroud, and the owner stepped in and said, "We're taking Bryce Young."
It is a good example that David Tepper's providing everyone that you can't just be a very successful businessman and translate that into a successful sports team ownership.
Yeah, I mean, what that needs to translate to is hire people that know what they're doing, give them the resources to do their job, get the hell out of the way. Unless you're Jera, and you're the GM and you are fully invested, you're everything, you've been there doing it for a long time, you're not just playing GM or playing, or overriding a GM and a coach's decision or their choice or their preference. Like, no, you are the GM. You are the owner, GM, all-encompassing, judge, jury, executioner for the organization. But Tepper's just like, no, I disagree. Let's do this over there. Or let's have weekly meetings with the head coach as the owner. How about this? Go away.
Yeah. Yes.
Hire your GM. Work with your GM with a coach that you feel like, because Clark went and got Andy Reid. So it wasn't that Clark went and hired a GM and then, got Andy Reid. Clark said, you know what? Andy Reid is the difference we need. I'm going to hire him, but then I'm going to put people in charge and let them do their job. I'll have a say. I'll have final say on contracts and if we're giving this much upfront money or what the cash is going to be, trades, things like that. Yeah. But I'm going to put people in place that I trust to do the job, and I'm going to give them the resources to do that job. And it's one of the it's
meddling. I mean,
it's the main thing that had me wanting to back off my crazy out there pick that there's always one like, wow, that team came out of nowhere. So I'm like, you know what? I'll go the Panthers because that would be a team that would come out of nowhere even if they won 5 games. But it had me going, I don't know that the owner would allow Canales just to be the coach.
I think you convinced yourself, as did a lot of people,
Totally.
that this has to be the time where he understands that he can't just
There was a tweet that I was reading through because I thought it was a fascinating question, and it was one of a national NFL analyst. I can't remember who it was, but it said, "Give me your worst opinions that you talked yourself into in the offseason about your team." And there were like 300 responses. I couldn't go through all of them. There were there were a number of them that Daniel Jones would actually look good with Malik Neighbors. There were a few of them. Like
I was semi on that because the last time Daniel Jones was healthy, they won a playoff game. And I'm like, I could see him winning 7 or 8 games this year. Oh boy, I think I'm wrong.
But I love that. I love that just that conversation, right? That topic of, what did you spend the offseason talking yourself into? Because the obvious one last year for us was that the wide receiver core was fine. Was that the Chiefs actually had an abundance of talent. They can't even choose 6 guys because they got 7. How could you possibly cut one of these guys? You can't cut one of these guys. You got 7 guys. This is so good. We talked ourselves into that, and we were so wrong last year, and so wrong. But fans sort of do that throughout the offseason of like, I can see this happening. It's like when the bracket comes out. I know we're the 12 seed, but I could see.
Well, 12s do beat 5s like 50% of the time.
Right, but then you got that 4-13. Like
that 13's going to win.
I
so
like the matchup with the
12-13.
4 better than the 5, actually. I like that matchup better. And we got the weakest 1 seed in the entire bracket. And the 2 seed, we know that they're running on fumes late in the season. Like I could see you lost in the first round, didn't you? Yes, we did. We didn't even cover the spread. It was bad. It was rough. And that 5 seed actually is now in the Sweet 16. But that's okay. It's one of those things every year. All right, Sterling, we'll go to you for your next observation or reaction, I should say.
Bengals missed the playoffs. Ooh. I'm now convinced the Bengals missed the playoffs. I know that they're 1-10, I believe, in weeks 1 and 2, as Zach Taylor has taken over the head coaching job. So this is nothing new for Bengals fans. They start slow, but I just think there's so much unrest. I think Jamar's unhappy. T. Higgins is injured, and I think obviously unhappy as well. They couldn't come to a deal with Trey Hendrickson either. Joe Burrow, I'm concerned with that hand. I said it in that the wrist and hand. I said from the get-go, I know people are just basically saying he's healthy now. He's back. He'll be ready to go. He did not look good. I mean, he really did not. He made a couple throws that I thought were Joe Burrow-esque. That one to Mike Gesicki in the back of the end zone that he should have caught.
Yeah, he should have caught.
I get that. That was a phenomenal throw.
Also had a touchdown if Tanner Hudson knows how to tuck the ball away.
Yeah, again, so there's some situations there, but I just don't think they're a really good team. I just don't. They've been EPA-wise, yards per play, all that stuff. Analytical have always basically said they're going to revert back to the mean, come back down to earth. And I think the Bengals missed the playoffs. They were my 7 seed, by the way, as we did this thing on Friday. I said that they were
or Thursday.
I said they were on the outskirts or the just in like the last team in. I think now I'm ready to say they missed the playoffs.
I was going back and forth because we talked about we named 9 different teams and we're like, 2 of those are going to miss the playoffs. There are two teams that you're like, how is that not a playoff team going into the season? I chose the Bills.
Yeah.
And for the first half, I was like, all right, I feel pretty good about this. And looking back, maybe I should have chose the Bengals.
Yeah.
But it's early. Like you said, Zach Taylor is 1-10 in his career in the first 2 weeks of the season. And the one win was an overtime win.
Yeah.
So he is yet to win a game in the first 2 weeks in regulation.
Hey, maybe play your guys in the preseason. Who knows?
I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. That was one of my reactions. I won't use it for this, but to go along with what you're saying, just to combine it there. One of my reactions is that, and maybe you guys will think it's an overreaction, but Zach Taylor is the worst coach at getting his team ready for the beginning of the season in NFL history.
No, I think
they're
that's
1-10 in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to go 1-10 with the talent you have around you. Now, the first couple of years, yes, they didn't have a whole lot of talent because he was taking over. Then he got Joe Burrow.
They played the Patriots with Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah.
And a rookie head coach.
And a rookie head coach.
They also played the Steelers a couple of years ago when they lost in overtime.
So my point was going to be, actually, Saban had a good point on a show about how it's actually better when the Chiefs and Ravens have a very hard opponent week 1 because your training camp reflects that because you have to prepare for that week 1. And it's almost like the Bengals do the opposite because they're playing the Patriots and, like you said, the Steelers last year.
Well, I just think, Andy Reid, I don't think it matters who they play first week of the
Well,
season.
no, not
Like,
Andy. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the Bengals have played like the Steelers. I mean, that's a divisional rivalry game. They're playing at home, and now their holder got injured, and McPherson missed a couple of easy kicks with the bad holds, and they lost in overtime. Excuses. They went to Dallas the next week and still lost as well. They turned that season around, and the Chiefs beat them in the AFC Championship game. They started off 0-2 that year as well, and that was going to be just disastrous. Last year, they started off 0-2 because of it was the calf of Joe Burrow. It had to be the calf. It couldn't be anything else. It was the calf injury for Joe Burrow. But, like, whether they're playing a good team or not, they just don't win games. Like, I think he might be the absolute worst at figuring out how to get his team ready to go. And you've got players in the locker room questioning, like, what's going on, and we got to be better, and this is every year. Like, Jamar, I mean, I know it's Jamar Chase, and, he's going to, talk or not talk, but try to actually say some things without saying some things. Like, you weren't really targeted down the field. Well, you got to ask Zach about that. Well, we're asking you. I don't have an opinion on that. You got to ask Zach about why I didn't get targeted down the field. Okay? Seems every year we do this.
Yeah.
We can't figure out how to win early on. It's a problem. We got to figure it out. Something's got to change. Okay. Like, there's some talking already. And it's a guy who's already unhappy with his contract and then didn't get targeted and also kind of got locked up by Christian Gonzalez.
Well,
I've seen the stats.
You guys know my thoughts on Christian Gonzalez.
Right. Now, Christian Gonzalez full training camp, Jamar Chase sitting out. Maybe that's week one. You've got a guy that's, hasn't been practicing with the team and all of that stuff. Maybe if they meet 9 weeks from now, then it'll be different. I don't know. But week number one, Christian Gonzalez had his number. And it's like, why weren't you targeted? Well, ask the defender.
I took a flyer on him for Defensive Player of the Year, by the way.
I know.
Christian Gonzalez.
It was nice.
Huge.
It was a nice
Huge.
call. It's a nice call. Jack?
Yeah, you might need to buckle in for this one. 'Cause
Yes.
This will definitely not bite me in the ass. I
Roller
think the
coaster ride.
Bears fight for a playoff spot all the way until week 17.
Okay, I could see that.
I think
It
fight
didn't-
for a spot. Yeah, it's not. It's
Like
not
a
as,
game, like there'll be like a game out at the
Yeah.
end of the
yeah,
year.
that's not as bold as I
think-
Yeah, that's
but
not
Really?
crazy. Yeah.
But you've got, it is one of the toughest divisions with Green Bay. Now, Jordan Love being injured, that certainly changes things. But Detroit
Lions twice.
looks
They'll see
really,
the Niners this year.
really good. They'll see the Niners this year, yeah.
Vikings are not just going to be a walkover now.
They'll have to
I
play
know.
the Vikings twice. I mean, what I look at is I go over a couple of quarterbacks in week one and their performances, right? Bo Nix, less than 4 yards per attempt. They lose to Seattle. You look at Deshaun Watson, Cleveland against Dallas, threw the ball nearly 50 times and had 140 yards of passing. But Caleb Williams didn't really play that well. He had less than 100
awful.
yards passing, a sub 50% completion percentage.
Some awful passes, too, that
Awful.
weren't close.
Terrible on every single level, I think, for that
terrible.
performance. But they were down 17-3 to Tennessee, found a way to come back and win with their defense. And that was a huge day yesterday for Chicago. That felt like a rebirth, if you will. This was going to be the new era, and there was a lot of pressure to play well because of what Caleb Williams did in the preseason and because of that type of heat going into game number one in Chicago, by the way. This might be a little bit different if they were on the road. But I think the Bears needed to show that they could win games even when Caleb Williams wasn't this superstar. I think last year with Houston and C.J. Stroud, a lot of those games you could point to with him being the star, right? C.J. Stroud won them that game for how they played. But for me to go one step further of actually thinking you can go from the number one draft pick to a playoff team, other aspects of your team have to show why you can win.
Well,
And-
number one because of the trade.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah,
number
the
one
trade,
because
yeah.
of the Panthers.
Yeah.
But getting the number one pick in Caleb Williams, and I think it's a good point that he did not look good, but they found a way to win.
Yes.
Yeah.
Will Levis had a hand in that.
I
but
was gonna
One
say
of the
that,
worst throws you'll ever see a player make.
He had a hand in that, but they still had to find a way to come through, and they did, and they're 1-0. Caleb Williams has to be better. It's weird. He didn't look like Mahomes in that game. I don't know. Now, I know this is his first game ever in the NFL. It's week one, and Mahomes sat the first year. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know. Maybe Mahomes would have looked like that his first game ever in week one. I just don't know that he would have been that off and missing guys by that much.
Keenan Allen did not do him any favors either. Keenan Allen had a couple of big drops. And I
mean,
will
he
say,
didn't even target Roma Dunze.
but looking at the schedule for the Bears, I don't think it's a hot take. I mean, I think 9-8 probably is like where I'm sitting with the Bears is 9-8, and they play the Panthers, they play the Commanders, they play the Patriots. I think the Cardinals are better than people. The Cardinals are my surprise team this year. They play the Jags, who aren't very good. They play Vikings twice. So again, I think the Giants might just be that bad. They play the Seahawks, who I don't think are good. Like they play some tough teams too. Don't get me wrong, the Bears do, but they have some games that you should mark down as dubs.
Should I go one step further and say they are a playoff team?
Yeah, sure.
Then I'd say overreaction.
Okay, there we go. I said to buckle in. I said to buckle in so they make the playoffs.
No, that is an overreaction. I think you're out of your skis there, buddy. Dylan, you're another reaction for you.
I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't believe I'm doing this. This is an overreaction in my mind, but I don't know how much longer I can defend Sean Payton.
Oh.
I really don't.
As soon as you said, I can't believe I'm doing this, I'm like, this has to be about Sean Payton.
It is.
Facts.
I don't know why you would start your rookie quarterback and say all those things about him, and then that's what we got, because you really just set him up for complete failure,
Yeah.
because everyone that isn't a Broncos fan was waiting for that performance to dunk on, and it didn't look great. Now,
it didn't.
the reason why I'm clinging and still will defend Sean Payton every once in a while, but he did play the best defensive coordinator in football last season at his new job with a great defense at home for their home opener. So he looked good on the last drive when they were playing prevent defense. So I'm going to cling to that.
Yeah, they're either the first or one of 2 or 3 teams in the history of the NFL to get 2 safeties and lose.
Yeah.
And they did record 2 safeties.
That was
And I will also be
incredible.
clinging to that John Elway graphic that CBS so thankfully put up of his first start, which was very bad. So.
Yeah. One of my reactions is that the Browns can't wait anymore. They have to start Jameis Winston this week.
Oh, fact.
Okay. Not an overreaction?
He's the worst quarterback in
That's,
football.
that's an underreaction.
Daniel, I would take Daniel Jones
Yeah.
over Jameis Winston
Ooh.
in a heartbeat, and it's not even close.
Daniel Jones over Jameis or Deshaun Watson?
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
I'm taking Daniel Jones over Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Not even thinking about that.
No, Jameis Winston needs to start right now. That was one of my reactions, and maybe it's a week 1 overreaction. I don't think it is, because this is a continuation, like we talked about with the Panthers, a continuation. Bryce Young, what he looked like, what the offense looked like, what the team looked like. That was a continuation, and I know he was pressured all day, and the Cowboys' defense looked pretty good, and Micah Parsons looked like an NFL, Defensive Player of the Year. But he also had a couple of passes that were just brutal. They were like, he had time in the pocket, threw it, and it lands between 2 different guys. And they're looking at it like, who was that to?
The 4th down, 4th and 6, where he's scrambling out to the right and just holds on and takes a sack.
Yeah, like it's 4th down, dude. Like it was bad, and it continues to be, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, it continues to be the absolute worst contract in sports history. That is not an overreaction. And people talk about, well, Daniel Jones is up there too. Dude, the Giants can get out of the Daniel Jones contract after this year for a $22 million dead cap hit.
Yep.
That's it. For as bad as, oh my God, you're paying Daniel Jones all that money. Right. It's not going to be great taking a $22 million dead cap hit. The Browns are taking $100 million, $120 million dead cap hit. Like ridiculous dead cap hits. Like 2 years from now, they'd take an $80 million dead cap hit if they move on from Deshaun Watson. The worst contract in sports history.
You think the Broncos last year were like, this is a big cap number, but have you seen Deshaun?
You've seen what Deshaun Watson's doing? Let's move on. They're in even worse shape than we are.
If only they had a quarterback that threw for 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Actually, been in the playoffs, won a playoff game.
No.
Oh.
Won a couple playoff games, actually, in his career with
Shoot.
Cleveland and Tampa.
Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
wait.
Nope, not good enough.
No, and by the way, not only is Baker Mayfield was so much better than Deshaun, he's so much cheaper.
Yeah.
Well, he's not an adult, remember?
Yeah.
Did you see that
Baker's the
tweet that
one
was
with,
circulating?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know what else
Baker's
he
the
isn't?
one.
We know.
It's not a sexual predator.
Yep.
I like that Deshaun Watson has more civil lawsuits than his QBR rating was yesterday.
It's double.
Yeah, double the number of civil lawsuits than his QBR was yesterday. Jack, reaction for you from the weekend? Third and final?
The last one I have, I'm glad that you brought up Baker Mayfield because I feel like I got to make up for the one I had in my number 2 pick. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, I got to bake up. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers get to the NFC Championship game.
Wow.
Okay, is that a buckle-in type take here?
That's a
Here's
buckle-in.
why.
It's a little bit.
Okay, so you go back to last year, and Tampa was 1 game away from the NFC Championship game. Had to go to Detroit. That was a Lions team that felt like the team of destiny. They fall short in San Francisco, of course. But I look at what division they play in. The NFC South is an awful division. They shouldn't really have too much competition when Carolina's going to be in there. I liked New Orleans last year, but New Orleans also showed with the weakest schedule in football, they couldn't get it done there. So I like the matchup for Tampa Bay against the Saints. But look at their back half of the schedule after their bye week in Week 11. So they will get the Chiefs, they'll get the Niners, they'll get Baltimore, they'll get Detroit before their bye week. They'll get Detroit, in fact, this coming Sunday at noon. So there are tough opponents on their schedule. But they'll get the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Panthers again, and the Saints. So if they can tread water, survive in the first 10 weeks of the year, they can run the table in the second half.
Maybe a 2 seed.
A 1 or a 2 seed. They'll get home playoff games. They wouldn't maybe have to go to Detroit to get there. And
when they play this week against Detroit, that could be a tiebreaker game.
There you go.
You know?
So Baker Mayfield, to me, has had this absolute transformation in going to Tampa Bay, and I don't think you can look at them anymore as just the consolation prize of winning a bad division, of, they'll go 9-8. It's a terrible division. They won't make it that far. I think last year showed a little bit that Tampa Bay can make a run again. They thumped Philadelphia. They destroyed Philadelphia in the wild card game. And let's be honest, they had their opportunity against Detroit. That game didn't feel like a winnable game to them. It took a long time for the Lions to put them away, and I think if presented the opportunity again, they won't be this Hail Mary shot of they won 9 or 10 games. They could be, with their schedule, an 11 to 12 game winner, get a couple of home playoff games, get lucky by the Niners or the Lions getting bounced, and find themselves in the NFC Championship game. I think that would be my third hot take of the weekend.
Okay. I love it. I think it's an overreaction. I'm not in on it, but that's a really good one. That's a fun one.
I think it's bordering on reaction and overreaction. I'm not fully there with overreaction, but I like it because the defense is still pretty good. All right, Dylan.
Michael Penix will start by week 4.
Ooh. Overreaction.
I think it's an overreaction just because they're invested in Kirk Cousins. I don't think it's an overreaction in the actual football part.
I was about to say, if I change it to should start by week 4, would it be an overreaction?
I don't think it's an overreaction.
I think it's still an overreaction.
I don't think so, man.
It was so.
I don't think he's not fully recovered from his.
It was worse. Him or Desmond Ritter in that last game.
He couldn't move.
I agree.
At least Ritter could move. Like Kirk Cousins didn't look like he could move. Like he looked like he was still laboring and still favoring that Achilles.
Yep.
And
also looks like a guy that they drafted a quarterback before he even set foot in the building to get relationships going with all these players as well.
Yeah, he looked like a guy that, and I know Kirk Cousins wasn't the most mobile guy anyway, but he just looked like it was like almost Peyton Manning at times. And they're working out of the shotgun, and they're doing a lot of different things there.
He was really good. I know it's all injury based because he was really good last year before the injury. He was phenomenal last year.
He was. I just I don't know that he's fully recovered from that thing to where he can do enough if the protection breaks down. They got weapons around him, but the weapons around him, they should not have scored that few points.
He made a really nice play to Kyle Pitts. He rolled out to the left, and he looked a little more mobile there. I just think he's knocking the rust off right now. They're going to lose the next 2 games because the Falcons play the Eagles next and then the Chiefs.
Yep.
But then their schedule is the easiest in the entire NFL. I mean, it's hilarious. It's just cupcake. It just... Yeah, I'm not ready to panic yet. Give me week 4 if they look bad against the Saints week 4, then I'm in.
All right, Sterling, we'll finish up with yours after mine because you went first a couple of times ago. So my third and final reaction, maybe overreaction, is Joe Alt, if health allows, will be at least an 8-time All-Pro in his career after 1 game. Now, this is a little bit of also what he did in college, that he allowed 1 sack in college, but that 1 sack was on a stunt in which his guy stunted inside and the guard didn't pick him up and sacked the quarterback, and somehow it counted for Joe Alt. Joe Alt yesterday, 11 one-on-one matchups with Max Crosby, 0 pressures. 0. Week 9 of 2022 was the last time Max Crosby had at least 10 rushes against 1 guy and didn't get a pressure. A couple of years ago. Joe Alt's first ever game in the NFL had 11 one-on-one matchups in pass rushing situations and 0 pressures against Max Crosby. So is that an overreaction after 1 game, or is it, he was looked at as one of the best tackles in the draft, one of the best tackle prospects we've seen. 2 years ago, people were talking about him being a top 5 pick, and a rookie getting Max Crosby game number 1 and left alone 11 times to just block Max Crosby by yourself, and you won You went 11 for 11?
That's insane.
So you're saying gold jacket because 8 all pros.
That's a Hall of
That's
Famer,
gold
basically.
jacket.
I mean, if
And
healthy,
that's not an overreaction. If he's
if
doing
healthy, like, good God, man, that
You
was
said
game one.
eight Pro Bowls?
I said at least eight All Pros. I said at least 8 All Pros.
No, because Trent Williams has 3.
No kidding.
all pros.
He only has 3 All Pros.
3 first-team All-Pros, 4 total All-Pros.
Well, that's dumb.
I agree, but he has 11 straight
Yeah.
Pro Bowls.
Right.
So if you want to go, if you said 8 Pro Bowls,
I'll say
I'm in.
Yeah, I didn't look at the Trent Williams thing. You know what? Bleep it. I'm going to double down. At least 15 All Pros for Joe Alt.
Didn't mean to
in
burst
his
your
career.
bubble there.
How much
That-
did Joe Thomas have? How many?
Laramie Tunsil has yet to get a single All-Pro. He's 4-time Pro Bowler. You said Joe Thomas?
Yeah,
I'll look at Joe Thomas.
Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer.
6-time All-Pro.
6-time All Pro. Okay.
10-time Pro Bowler. Well, he only played 11 years.
He played every single game until he missed a game, and then
He
his
played
career was
11
over.
years total.
11 years, played every single game. So I'll say at least 6.
Well, I'll take that back because they only count first-team All-Pros. So he was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He was all 8-time.
he was a 9.
8-time All-Pro.
No, 9-time. He was an All Pro, first team or second team, because his rookie year he was also All Pro.
Was he? Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have that in front of me.
So he was an All Pro 9 times, first team or second team. I'll back it down to 6 because it seems
Overreaction. If you said Pro Bowl, I'm all in. All-Pro, I think there's too much variance.
6 All Pro, 6 times, at least a 6-time All Pro. Joe Thomas.
If
Or, excuse me,
if
Joe
Trent
Alt.
Williams didn't do it, I don't think he is. Sorry,
Well, Trent Williams isn't as good as he is. So.
that's bad take.
All right, last reaction from the weekend. Sterling, your third and final.
It's done. We've officially. I'm declaring it
Okay,
right
we're
now.
done with reactions. We'll take a time.
I've been declaring this for a while now, and now I think everyone understands. Josh Allen is the clear-cut second-best quarterback in the NFL. There's no debate. Josh Allen is the second-best quarterback.
I don't think that's an overreaction. I like it.
I think that probably is accurate. I think he's the toughest to stop. I think Lamar Jackson's still relatively close to Josh Allen, but when trying to game plan, I mean, Josh Allen's 6'6", 250 and can run like the fastest quarterback in the NFL, and also has the throw power better than I think anybody else in the NFL.
I one of my observations that I did not use here was that Josh Allen will miss multiple games with an injury this year.
Do you see him dive head first?
It's
Like,
just-
dude
he's-
is
he's got stones.
fearless.
He plays fearless, but game number 1, he's already hurt his left wrist. Luckily, it's not his other wrist. I just think he's playing too fearless right now. And the problem is, last year Mahomes had to carry the offense. Josh Allen has to carry the offense, but I think in Josh Allen's mind, part of carrying the offense is him carrying the ball,
yeah.
and that could be an issue. We'll take a timeout, come back, more zone next. Sunday. If you had to pick out a favorite win from the weekend, it's tough to choose. I know. Which one would you go with?
It probably had to be Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday was fun.
Just the vibes. I wasn't even at the stadium, just seeing it on TV, being able to see like the stadium go nuts and feeling like October in the middle of at the beginning of September is awesome.
What have these 4 games done for you, I guess, personally, from a confidence standpoint that, we heard the players in the clubhouse, Bobby Witt saying, everybody's overreacting, that, these things happen. Teams go through this. We're fine. We're going to get back to winning baseball games, but, people are talking about if we'll make the playoffs or this. We're just, we're going to show up tomorrow and we're going to go play a baseball game and, whatever happened today, and it's behind us. Teams go through this. It's easy to say while you're losing that it's going to be all good. It's tougher to sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel of the offensive struggles for them to eventually turn it around. But these 4 games, it hasn't exactly been like they're winning 10-5. But what have they done for you confidence-wise to go into these last, 18 games after watching them rattle off 4 in a row?
I mean, they were able to reinforce everybody's confidence in the starting rotation. They went out and had some great performances from the starting rotation, and perhaps able to get hot at the right time when it comes to the bullpen. So I think as far as like what it's done for me personally, I never wanted to get too high, too low. It was pretty tough there during that skid, but it's one of those things where you come in and you have a good series against the Twins, who are a good team. Despite what their manager, Rocco Baldelli, says, still a good team and a good showing, a good series sweep. So the confidence is back in there, and we're back, baby.
Yeah, it's been awesome to watch, and this weekend was, man, for me it was crucial because like I looked at the math of it. Last week we were sort of talking about it. I think every day, every day we talk about the loss and then say, look, this is what the rest of the season looks like. Here's why FanGraphs still has the Royals as an 80% chance of making the playoffs. Like the math works in their favor. They would have to have some catastrophic collapse, for them to not make the playoffs. It's easier to present that when they're winning games rather than when they're losing and they're going from tied for the division lead to then 5.5 games out. That's a little rough to keep saying, hey, it's all good, calm down. They're going to win a game again this year. So it went a long way for me because, seeing this team go and do that. And of course, the starting staff, the bullpen, and stringing hits together. Like this was the formula when they were winning a bunch of games and they got to 15 games over 500. They weren't slugging their way to, 8 home runs in a game and winning 11-6, 11-7 or anything like that. They were winning some of these games. And that 8th inning on Saturday, which I agree with you, that was so much fun. That 8th inning on Saturday, I think, is indicative of what we've seen in that they score 4 runs and they had 0 extra base hits in that inning.
Yes, it was strung together, kept the line moving, type of wins that they keep doing, and they keep responding to this stuff. This team is resilient. They have, thick skin to be able to hang in there. They've seen the bad times, and they're living in the good times now. So I do, with all the veteran presence in that clubhouse, I did have faith that it was going to get righted, and they were going to get it figured out. Lugo's too good. Reagan's too good. Waka has always been great. Singer has been pretty good. It's just how they've gotten here. So it wasn't a situation where I felt good or bad about them at the time. It was obviously bad to feel that they keep losing to good teams and they need to prove it. But it really doesn't matter until you get to the postseason, and that's where the proving grounds are. So that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where you really make hay in whatever cliche you want to write. That is essentially where it's done. So none of this really matters as long as you get in there. And if you get in there as this current Royals team and how they find success with starting rotation, kindly hitting, no team is going to want to play them. Nowhere. Yep. They definitely don't want to come to Kansas City. They don't want to get, lose to a team that they're better than on paper. That would be demoralizing if they're able to take a couple wins at someone's house. So if that's the case, great. If not, we'll beat them at home. But at the same time, this is a team that no team in the postseason will want to play.
Josh Katz is our guest, One Royal Way podcast. Are you aware of the picture that Dylan uses for the stream, the YouTube, Twitch, the Facebook, or are you Twitter? Are you aware of the picture that he uses when we talk to you?
No, I am not.
Okay.
It's your Twitter bio picture, and it's the only picture when I search Josh Kaiser, KCSN, One Royal Way that pops up on
Yeah.
Google Images. And I
Sure.
have been meaning to ask you to send me like a good and a nice. I think this is a nice headshot.
I like
it.
it.
Shows your fun
No,
personality.
I think that's it. That's it. That's 100% it. Do you guys know the story of that?
No, I don't.
No, I don't.
So last year, the trade deadline, everybody kept talking about Nicky Lopez is going to get traded, and I was like, nobody wants Nicky Lopez. Nicky Lopez is not going to get traded, and if they do, I will eat a ghost pepper on the next
That's
podcast.
right. That's what this is.
And sure enough, he got traded for Taylor Hearn, who was a waiver pickup the week before, and then he got traded to the Royals for Nicky Lopez, hence the ghost pepper, and that's the look on my face. But that is the only picture that I want of my face.
Yeah.
That is the most indicative and appropriate one to use, I think.
How'd it taste?
No, yeah. Does the picture do it justice of what it tasted like?
It tasted good. It was brutal and not fun to do, but I am a man of my word,
Yeah.
and I had to eat it. So
You know what? A shout out to you, like literally, shout out to you for doing that, for holding up to that. What you said on the air, what you said that you would do, because the Florida State fan last week that tweeted out 3 days before the Florida State game that said,
Yep.
if Florida State loses to who are they playing? Boston College.
Yep.
If they lose to Boston College, I will eat dog poop out of a cup with a spoon. And as
Yep.
they were losing, he deleted his Twitter account.
ghosted. I mean,
Gone.
a real coward, that guy. I mean,
Totally.
who would say such a thing like that and not do something like that? I mean,
Right. You got to eat the dog poop.
edible- Yeah, you got to eat it, man. It
Yep.
just is what it is. This is the internet. There's receipts all over the place.
Yep.
You and your avatar cannot be seen ever again.
Yeah,
So,
but
there-
shout out to you for only saying ghost pepper.
Yeah.
That's what you would eat,
and
as
there
opposed
was probably
to.
an asterisk on that too, because I couldn't get my hands on a ghost pepper in time, so I ate 2 habaneros.
That's fine.
Instead.
It's the same. It all
I mean,
amounts the same.
Adds up on the Schofield level,
That's
I
exactly.
think.
Yep.
So
Yep.
we're good.
Schofield, you're good.
Schofield, it doesn't match up, but at the
I think
same
it's fine.
time, like my tum didn't want to argue with anybody on that front.
That's fine. You're all good in our book, man. Yeah. So well done in doing that, and do something that you feel like you can accomplish and you would do. Like Danny Clinkscale, when Tony Pena Jr. was batting like 330 in the first month of the season. Danny Clinkscale with one of the best lines. It was like a Royals pre or post game show that we were doing. He said, "If Tony Pena hits 300, I'll swim to the Dominican."
Oh,
He batted like 180 that year, but it's just like,
Yep.
it was such like smoke and mirrors that he was batting like 330, right? The triples that he had when the guy in right
Yep.
field was playing second base because they were like, "I dare you to hit it over our head." It was just a
Yep.
great line. "I'll swim to the Dominican. He's not hitting 300.
To let you know how excited I was about Tony Pena Jr. with that start, this was right when he got called up, right? It was very early.
It was early in the
I had
season.
a Brett or a ball signed by George Brett.
And you got it signed by Tony
I
Pena
then
Jr.
proceeded
too?
to get it
You're a dummy.
signed by Tony Pena Jr. So
Yeah,
now-
you're dumb.
hey,
you're
who
dumb.
has a George Brett and Tony Pena Jr. ball?
Yeah.
One of one, baby.
Yeah.
That's one of one.
You know who's ever going to want
real
that?
question: who would want that?
Me.
Yeah, that's the real question.
I do.
Josh, you and I mind melding.
Because it's
On the
funny.
same page.
I want it.
Hey, Josh, one of the things I wanted to ask you after watching this weekend, Daniel Lynch and what he's done since, being just strictly bullpen. He had a couple of rough, starts. And then since that, he's gone 7 2/3 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 7 Ks, a couple of 3-inning outings. Are you cautiously optimistic that this thing is, they found something in Daniel Lynch here, or are you fully on board that this is real, that they have now found a role for Daniel Lynch that he can just simply fit in, and he's doing his job and pitching well if this is simply what they say, this is you, go do this?
Yeah, I love the role that they have him in, especially piggybacking off of guys like Alec Marsh, potentially piggybacking if this is the role that he moves forward with the Royals. Then you got some Kyle Wright insurance for next year, some kind of incoming free agent bargain that you want to take a shot on. You can take a shot with a guy because you have a guy like Daniel Lynch behind him that can, play matchups a lot better. So I like this matchup for Daniel Lynch quite a bit just because it allows his stuff to play up. It allows his velocity to tick up, which has always been the biggest earmark for him. And if he's able to play at that velocity, then he has plenty of value with his off-speed and his breaking stuff to go with it. So it seems like when he does pitch in that role, they do change up the usage on his pitches quite a bit. They allow a little bit more of that sinker as well. So that's not something that you can show a lot of hitters on a regular basis. But if you're using it to kind of keep guys honest, then great, because you got the four-seam velocity there again. So I think I like this role a lot for Daniel Lynch. And if that's the best we're going to get from Daniel Lynch, then I'm still signing up for that at this point.
Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast. Josh, you're the man. Appreciate it, sir. I appreciate also that the first time since moving back, so 2019 was the first year. So this is now the 6th September that I've done the show, and it's the first time we've continued our Royals guests. So
right.
That is awesome. That is
and
awesome.
leading off shows with it. I mean, we're talking about. I mean, the Chiefs did play on Thursday.
Yep.
But you guys leading off on Monday with the Royals.
With the Royals.
The first week of that's what I mean. With the first week of the NFL on,
Yep.
college football was in full swing, and here we're still talking about Royals baseball. It's a great time to be in Kansas City, and always a great time to be on with you boys.
Absolutely, Josh. Appreciate it, brother.
Yep. Take care.
All right, there's Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, and again, go check out the YouTube, the Twitch, the Facebook, Twitter, just to see the picture for Josh, if nothing else. Or I guess it is just simply his. It's his Twitter profile, but it's just funny when it switches like to us talking, and there's like this camera of us, and then it switches back to him with this face like I just ate a ghost pepper. It's great. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this hour. Field Yates comes up at noon. More Zone next. All right, thank you to Josh Kaiser, One Royal Way podcast, talking some Royals baseball, talking a lot of NFL football. We talked some college football in the first hour as well. went through our Week 1 reactions / maybe they're overreactions, but Week 1 reactions, just a few of them. I had like 10 different reactions from Week 1. I mean, it's easy to come up with like Week 1 reactions. As the narratives start to develop, a little more difficult to sort of,
Weird they were all about Derek Carr, too.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It was very odd. I got a bone to pick with Derek Carr for not throwing to Chris Olave. So
yeah.
Enough with
You
Rashid
see 47 points, you're like, oh, I bet Chris Olave had himself a day.
Yeah, 11 yards. Nice job. Luckily, I didn't need it. This week, Derek, you got away with it.
Yeah.
Don't do it again. All right? We'll talk with Field Yates from ESPN NFL Insider. Comes up on the other side of the break. More Zone next, then Andy Reid at 12:30. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Coming up a half hour from now, we'll hear from Andy Reid. Monday press conference getting ready for the Bengals heading to town, 325 CBS on Sunday. Andy Reid will be talking. We'll hear from him half hour from now. Right now, let's get our weekly conversation started with Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider, joining us here in the zone. Field, welcome into the show. How you doing, brother?
Jason, I'm doing great. Great to catch up with you as always. Another season is upon us, and I don't want to take all the credit, but I think since you and I started doing this segment, the Chiefs have won like 3 Super Bowls in the past 5 years. So from you and I, Jason, we say you're welcome to Chiefs fans everywhere.
Yeah, so I moved back to town in 2019, and the only thing that's happened in 2019, and that's when the first year we started having you on as well, when I moved back, it's been 3 Super Bowl championships in that 5 years and 4 Super Bowls as well, and an AFC championship game each and every year. So the worst that they have done is losing in overtime in the AFC championship game. So, yeah, Kansas City, you're welcome. I mean, is it –
it seems pretty decent to me.
Yeah, is it Andy Reid, Mahomes, Veach, and Clark Hunt, or is it Jason and Field? I can't even decide.
Yeah, it's much more the latter. Let's be honest with ourselves. With all the credit those men deserve,
right?
The real heroes are you and I speaking here on the radio and flapping gums every Monday for 20 or so minutes.
Thank you. It's just good luck charms, Field Yates is our guest from ESPN. First of all, how are you doing? How's the shoulder and everything that took place with that? How you doing, brother?
Yeah, Jason, the interesting part is the feel that I have right now could be a lot different than how I'll be feeling come Wednesday, because I have surgery on Wednesday to repair a busted labrum in this dislocated shoulder. So I've certainly seen better days. I learned a lesson, which most notably was that I am still 37. I don't go back in time just because I'm on a beach thinking that I am 21 years old. So we learned the hard way not to mess around on the beach tackling a blow-up quarterback as part of a fantasy football event. That being said, it was good for content, Jason, right? At
Yeah.
the very least, we got a lot of content out of it.
Yeah, I don't think it was worth it for you, but it was good for content. Maybe the most painful content you've ever created in your life. I'm not sure what else
Hopefully
is taking place.
yes.
What-
Hopefully ever will be.
Yes. What draft pick did you get? Like, was it worth it? Did you get the number 1 or number 2 pick or anything like that?
They said I could pick whatever I wanted after I went through that, fortunately.
So what did you choose then? By the way, this is a great question for a guy who's done fantasy football for so long, and you get to actually choose your draft position. What position did you choose?
Yeah, I actually liked pick 5 this year for this reason, is that I felt as though there were 5 players that kind of represented the absolute cream of the crop at the very top of the board. And Christian McCaffrey, number 1, and then in some order from there, Tyreek Hill, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, and also CeeDee Lamb. And, so obviously Tyreek paid off in a major way yesterday. Bijan was very good as well. We'll see on Breece Hall and CMC tonight. And CeeDee Lamb, kind of a predictably quiet day against that awesome Cleveland defense. So I was happiest with 5 because I just said I'll take whichever of those 5 has not yet been chosen, or if 2 of them are on the board somehow, I will make that decision on my own. And then I'm also closer to being back on the clock than when you have that number 1 pick, which it's certainly an advantage if you want to target Christian McCaffrey, but that wait until pick number 20 or 24 or even 32 in a 16-team league, that feels like an eternity.
Yeah, you're right. I love that strategy. That is brilliant, and that's why you do what you do. Yes.
Thanks.
Field Yates from ESPN is our guest. All right, let's. There's a lot of NFL stuff that different points we can get into, but let's start with Chiefs and Ravens on Thursday night. What was your takeaway from that game? One of the best games that was played of the weekend, to the level that those two teams played at, and of course to the ending and back and forth. What was your takeaway from the Chiefs coming away by inches and a 2-point conversion? A couple of inches and a 2-point conversion with a win.
Yeah, Jason, as I think back to the earliest stages of Patrick Mahomes' starting career, you could make a case that the most entertaining version of the Chiefs was where they were back in 2018 when Patrick threw 50 touchdown passes in his first season as a starter and took not just the football world, but really the entire world by storm as this allowed me to introduce myself as the next great athlete alive, Patrick Mahomes player. And yet, while I'm sure the Chiefs would love for Patrick to throw 50 touchdown passes, I find that Thursday night's win has to in some ways be more gratifying for Chiefs fans for this reason. The Chiefs have proven, and I think more so over the past 3 years, I guess I'll call it 2+ years, the last 2 seasons plus Thursday night, than earlier on in Patrick's career. And what they could do is beat you in so many different ways. The offense was fine on Thursday night. It wasn't bad, but it also wasn't a game in which Patrick just overwhelmed that very good Ravens defense and they had no chance, right? I mean, Baltimore kind of found its way a little bit in the second half, and next thing you know, a game looked like it was going to be out of reach. Ends up becoming a close game, but the Chiefs win it, and they just do it in so many different ways now. Defensively, they got key contributions from players that had kind of been there and done that, right? Chris Jones looks like Chris Jones, and then you have other players like Jalen Watson taking on a bigger role in the departure of L'Jarius Sneed, seemingly stepping up as he needed to for this team to kind of pick up where it left off. So, while you want the offense to be great, if I told you going into the game that Travis Kelce would be held to 3 catches and that they would get, some contributions from players that you'd expect them to, but not necessarily a ton, and they still win the game, I think you'd say, all right, pretty good way to start the season. And when we saw a few teams notably lay eggs this past weekend, it was a good reminder that ultimately how you win is not necessarily as important as whether you win.
Yeah. Again, like even going along with that, if you said, Kelce has 3 receptions for 34 yards and Pacheco averages 3 yards per carry in the game, and he has a long of 5 in the game. His longest run is going to be 5 yards. I would feel different.
The long was that short.
Yeah.
That was amazing. I did not realize it was that short of a long run.
Yep. The longest run by the Chiefs in the game was Xavier Worthy's 21-yard reverse. So it's, which is
that one might not have surprised me if Xavier Worthy led the team in longest play both through the air and on the ground. It was the most predictable. I have
Exactly.
a shiny new toy. I'm going to play with said shiny new toy in the history of professional sports.
Yeah, 35-yard reception and 21-yard run. So both of those were the long on the day for the receiving and rushing for the Chiefs. How good can this offense be? Because they did that. Hollywood Brown, I still don't think he's going to play this weekend. I've guessed that he's probably going to play against Atlanta. We'll see. Andy Reid will talk in a little bit, so we'll find out about that. But how good can this offense be? Can they be back to number 1 or 2 when they get Hollywood Brown back, and seeing what they did against that Ravens team and Mahomes with, again, Kelsey having 3 catches, 34 yards, Mahomes still at a 102 quarterback rating and almost 300 yards and a touchdown?
Yeah, I think somewhere in the top 5 is plausible for this Chiefs offense. It's too early for me to say with certainty they can be number 1, because while they did get 2 touchdowns from Xavier Worthy, I didn't think that there was as much of a vertical element to this offense as I anticipated. Now, that could be as simple as the Ravens are really good. It could be as simple as Hollywood Brown could unlock that even more. I'm not entirely. It could be as simple as it's just one game, but, we were thinking about Rashee Rice a lot during the preseason for fantasy football purposes, where he ranked 229th last year in terms of average depth of target. So basically how far down the field he's catching the football.
Yep.
And all the narratives in the preseason were this is going to be a much more vertically inclined offense. And then what do we see on Thursday night? Basically the exact same thing as last year from Rashee Rice. So I think if there was a play or two from Thursday night way down the field, I would feel as though the upside was a little bit more certain for this Chiefs offense. But just based off of the quarterback under center, top 5 to me absolutely seems in play, provided they avoid any sort of notable injuries beyond Hollywood Brown and the skill guys.
What I think is going to be interesting, and we'll see how defenses play them field the rest of the way, but, the defenses played single high against the Chiefs last year a lot because they didn't feel there was a threat to, beat them over the top, where they were playing the shell cover 2, Tyreek Hill's last year, and it was like, all right, now you got to figure out just to take what's there underneath and work that intermediate area. And on Thursday night against the Ravens, Patrick Mahomes dropped back 14 times against single high coverage, and he was 12 of 14 for 151 yards. His completion percentage over expected against single high coverages was the highest since Week 17 of 2021, since he had Tyreek Hill against single high.
Wow.
That to me, and to even to the point that they didn't take a deep shot, like they were still beating the single high coverage without going deep and over the top. And I wonder if Mahomes if he's able to do that. Do they go to a 2-man safety, 2 deep shell, and then Rice and Kelsey over the middle a little bit more? Like, it was obvious their game plan was Kelsey's not going to beat us. We'll leave a linebacker on Rashee Rice in the slot, which didn't seem like the smartest thing. But the Chiefs found other guys to win and found ways to get Xavier Worthy the ball, and they didn't take that deep shot, and they still had that effective offense, and Mahomes was that good against the single high coverage.
Yeah, again, 27 points may not seem like a ton, but the context always matters. And this Ravens defense, probably a good point. Like, maybe the most important thing is this happened against what could be the best defense in the NFL. I mean, it was last year, and so many notable stats. So, yeah, they're always going to be so good. And I think that's probably what's also impressive about this evolution of the Kansas City offense is that for a while at the beginning of the Patrick Mahomes era was they did, meaning the Chiefs, what they did, and no team had an answer for it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the teams have an answer for it now, but they have at least a better plan, it will appear, or at least maybe the not having Tyreek Hill has allowed teams to have a little bit more of an answer just because he's such a game changer in so many ways. But to win resourcefully is so impressive from Kansas City, and it feels like, I don't know, I feel like every time I watch them, I'm reminded of somebody that you're just like, Leo Chenal, like giving you quality snaps on Thursday night. Not that he hasn't before, right? But it's just a reminder of a guy that, I don't know, when you're talking about the Chiefs on a national level, I don't know how many times his name gets brought up. The answer is probably very infrequently, right? It's just a reminder of just how deep and talented this roster is beyond all the stars who are deservedly paid as stars.
I like that word, winning resourceful.
They just find a way, right?
Yeah, they have done that, especially last year. They tended, late in the season after that Raiders debacle on Christmas Day, they didn't lose again. Still haven't lost, but finding ways to win games. And 2 of the last 3 games they've won have been against the Ravens. Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. Cincinnati loses at home to the Patriots. No T. Higgins. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, that connection looked off, and he hasn't really practiced all off season or in training camp or anything. Are there real concerns in Cincinnati, or is this just simply the Bengals start off rough 0-1 or 0-2 and they find a way to right the ship and they become a team that's really dangerous down the stretch, or is there something bigger going on in Cincinnati right now?
Yeah, they might have a little bit of, I don't know, good fortune on their side from yesterday, just because the Browns looked terrible.
Yeah.
The Ravens, of course, lost to the Chiefs in week 1, even though I still believe the Ravens are a very, very good football team. And it wouldn't surprise me if they're, a division winner. There's a part of me that's predisposed to just saying, like, don't worry about it. Cincinnati, it's A-okay. But there were some things happened yesterday that were, like, if you recall to last season when they got smothered in week 1 as well. It was when they played the Browns, and Joe Burrow looked terrible, and they had all their guys. And 2 years ago, I believe it was Pittsburgh, and he threw like 5 interceptions. He was just terrible. Yesterday, like, Joe Burrow wasn't good per se, but he also was fine, right? I don't believe he had a turnover.
No.
His numbers were. I have to go back and look at them. I don't recall being.
He was 21 of 29, 164 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions.
Yeah, so that's not. Put it this way: Joe Burrow was not the reason that they won, nor was he the reason that they lost. If that makes obviously they didn't win, so there were a lot of reasons why they didn't win. But the point is that Joe was fine yesterday. He wasn't great, but he wasn't an abject disaster, and it just felt lethargic yesterday. And there was a time not that long ago where it was like pick your poison when it came down to defending the Bengals, right? It was if you defend Jamar Chase, you might get T. Higgins, or you might get even Tyler Boyd or Joe Mixon. And yesterday, the Patriots basically said, hey, Christian Gonzalez, who covered Jamar Chase on 20 of his 28 routes, you got him. Everybody else will handle. And the results were pretty darn good for New England, who, that's a team that I think is going to be scrappy defensively. But given their offensive limitations, that's a game that Cincinnati should win. There's no excuses about it. So if I had to do a sort of like who was I most concerned by yesterday, 2 things can be true at once. Cincinnati was on my list, but they also weren't even the number 1 team in their own division on that list because what I saw from Cleveland was just so alarming.
Yeah, I said earlier in the show I feel like Jameis Winston should probably start this week.
And truthfully, Jason, I don't think if you were doing a national radio show today and they said, "Hey, Jason, you got to react to the NFL," I think that's the lead story. And I know that it's week 1, so we have so many different ways that we can go with it. You can talk about anything. You can talk about Dak Prescott's contract. You can talk about the Lions winning a big game last night. You can talk about the brilliance of whatever. You can talk about Tyreek Hill before the game.
Right.
Yeah. But truthfully, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this might be the worst trade in the history of professional sports that took place. And I admit I haven't vetted every trade in the history of pro sports, right? But as long as I've been covering the league, I don't think there's a close second to worst trade in the entire NFL, because you multiply not just what the Browns gave up, which is 3 first-round picks, but the contract they gave to Deshaun Watson, which of course was a fully guaranteed $230 million, on top of the fact that the Browns have mortgaged their flexibility with this deal by continuing to restructure the contract, which is what they do with all their deals. I don't want to get too inside baseball here, but for anybody who knows how the Browns operate, they kick all the money into the future, which is fine, except for the fact it's fine for on good players, right? Like Myles Garrett, is going to count more in the future against the Cavs. I mean, the Chiefs are doing with Patrick Holmes. They do it basically every year now, right? But it's going to make the out on Deshaun Watson that much more painful. Like if they really the only way they can do it probably is cutting him and taking the dead cap hit over multiple years. And it's going to end up being like $100 and some million in just the first year. It's and I just don't know. Like I don't know how you get out of it at this point if you are Cleveland. So I was very surprised. for a team that did not need to double down on Deshaun Watson or triple down on Deshaun Watson with the restructure this summer, I was surprised that they opted to do so.
Yeah, if they cut him after this year, they take $172.7 million dead cap hit. If they cut him
That's
after
it, huh?
if they cut him after 2025, though, they get a little reprieve. They take a $99.8 million dead cap hit. So
what's $100 million bucks? Nothing, right?
Not especially when you're getting play like that. When you're getting quarterback play like that. All right, we let you go with this. Chiefs and Bengals. It's early. It's still 6 days away. But do you have a thought, an early feel for what this game may look like 3:25 on Sunday?
Yeah, the Chiefs with rest, playing at home, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a Chiefs win right there. I feel really good about where the Chiefs were at. I thought they came out of, if there was a team that might, it's possible for the champs to get complacent in sports, right? It's a short off season. There's a lot of hype surrounding you. You've done it back-to-back years. There might be a feeling of we can just show up and be fine. They looked hungry on Thursday night. I expect them to look hungry again on Sunday. And while Cincinnati is also 0-1, this team, the Chiefs, I think they want to bury Cincinnati, not because the season is decided in week 2, but because this has been a team that has played them well in the past in big moments. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs make a statement here on Sunday afternoon at Arrowhead.
Yeah, somehow Patrick Mahomes has convinced his team that they have a chip on their shoulder because last year offensively it was not a fun, quote unquote, they didn't have a lot of fun winning the Super Bowl because offensively they weren't very good. So somehow he's convinced.
I tell people this all the time. Regardless of whether we think a team deserves to have a chip on its shoulder, if that team believes it has a chip on its shoulder, that's all that matters.
Yep, absolutely.
That's all that matters.
It's crazy. He's found a way to do that. Field Yates from ESPN, our NFL insider. Field, you're the man as always. Really appreciate the time, brother. Enjoy the football, and we will catch up next week.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it, Jason.
Yeah, best of luck on the surgery on Wednesday, too.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates, and starting our weekly conversation with Field here, talking about the NFL Insider. And if you didn't see it, he plays in a fantasy football league where they have an obstacle course, and the fastest time through the obstacle course gets the first pick, and then so on and so forth through the rest of the draft. And Field finished the obstacle course. The last thing was, it was on the beach. You had to go and tackle a tackling quarterback dummy, and that's when the clock stopped, and he dove and hit it, and then landed, and then his left shoulder dug into the sand, and then he flipped over, and he dislocated his left shoulder, and apparently tore his labrum, and so now he's going in for surgery on Wednesday to repair that. But the consolation was that his league allowed him to pick wherever he wanted. You get whatever pick you want, and I just love the thought process and the strategy behind, okay, you pick whatever you want. What selection are you taking? You went pick number 5.
I told a lot of folks 5 was the spot that I wanted to be because I actually got 1. We just randomized, and I got 1, and everyone's like
CMC.
I took CMC. I think that's the obvious one, but I do think there's a top 5, a clear 5 before there's a drop off at 6.
Agreed.
And there's a reason why I didn't necessarily want 1 because he's right. That's a long way back to 20 and then 21. It's a long ways away, and you missed out on some damn good second rounders because of it.
Yeah, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. He's got a Chiefs win over the Bengals, and interesting talking about Cincinnati and just saying of the teams this weekend, they would be on his list of teams to be concerned about, but they wouldn't even be top of the list in teams in their division because that would be Cleveland and the Browns and what continues to be the worst contract. It's the worst trade in NFL history because of the contract you're paying him. But it's also just simply, even if you didn't have to trade for him, it's the worst contract in sports history as well.
And we haven't even gone and done the what did Houston get from those picks because it was Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud. And I'm sorry, and because they used the picks to get back up to get Will Anderson. They would have had Stroud.
Yeah.
But getting Anderson too.
Yep. So
wasn't Derek Stingley part of that potentially too, like the first one? I could be wrong.
It's so funny. I focus so much on just the contract that we haven't even really discussed what they lost in order to acquire Deshaun Watson. Like the contract itself is already an anchor, an albatross, a franchise drowner.
It makes the Panthers Bryce Young trade look
Right.
wonderful.
Because at least they can get out of that contract in a year or two and just say, all right, we've seen him his first year, his second year, now his third year. We're not Daniel Jonesing this thing.
They're not the
We're going to
first.
find somebody else.
They are not the first franchise to pick a first-round bust quarterback.
Yep.
Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Although Sam Darnold's now
Just
finding
don't-
his footing.
Just don't make the New York Giants mistake.
Josh Rosen.
And say, we're taking Daniel Jones. Okay, we've seen what we've got. Let's sign him and just build around him. He's good enough. No, go
Heck, the
get
Bears did with Justin Fields even.
Yeah.
They said we
Go-
don't.
right.
yeah.
Go get the quarterback. Trade whatever you've got to trade to go and get the guy. I don't think Bo Nix is the guy, but credit to Denver for saying we're going to try to find the guy.
Yeah.
Credit Minnesota. We're letting Kirk Cousins go. We're going to try to find the guy, J.J. McCarthy. And they probably benefited. It ain't great that he's out for the year, but they benefited with not having the temptation to trade or to start him.
Patriots.
Yeah.
Patriots are in no man's
Shout out
land.
to
They
Jerome
said,
Mayo.
you know what? Let's go Jacoby Brissett.
Shout out
Sorry,
to
Drake May.
Yep, absolutely. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We'll hear from Andy Reid coming up next. I don't think this is coincidental because of who they're playing tonight. 6:05 first pitch against the Yanks. The Royals, as of 16 minutes ago, put out their mass email to media across the country. Bobby Witt Jr. MVP campaign. And it's just game notes all about why Bobby deserves to be the MVP. Who they playing tonight?
Probably the White Sox, right?
That's right.
Is that? Oh,
That's
it's
right.
it's the Yankees.
The Yankees.
Shocking.
The Yankees. Playing the Yankees tonight. Aaron Judge, the heavy favorite. But shout out to the PR staff with the Royals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a Heisman campaign, right, that people do. But
Sure.
do this for your guy. You know, he signed long-term with you. He invested in you. He's not going to win the MVP, but show how much you're invested in him as an
Yeah.
organization, that you're going to start a league-wide campaign to show why he's deserving, and coming up with all of these different numbers and stats as to why he would be deserving over Aaron Judge. Good on them.
It is funny. Actually, Judge and Bobby have slowed down a little bit over the past about week and a half,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Let's see tonight. Let's see tonight, tomorrow, and Wednesday.
It is in New York, so Bobby's triples off the wall now turn into bombs.
That's right.
Those ones to right field.
Yeah, those he'll have no more triples. That sucks. Instead, there'll be 4-baggers. The Chiefs get ready for the Bengals coming up on Sunday, 3:25. They are currently 6-point favorites. 47 is the total. 6.5 as of yesterday. Damn near touchdown against the Bengals. That is a huge number. And a lot of it certainly reaction from the first week of the season. Andy Reid opened up his Zoom with his thoughts on Thursday night's game against the Ravens.
We're distance away from the Ravens game and well into the Cincinnati Bengals, but I can give you a quick recap on the Ravens game. I felt like we did some good things in all three phases, with plenty of room to improve in all three phases. It was good to get some of the players in that really hadn't had a lot of the training camp reps. We had 6 or so players that had limited reps or no reps during our time up at St. Joe. So it was good to get those guys in there and working. And I think that'll pay off for us down the road, just with the reps that they received there in the play time. And most of those guys were on the defensive side of the ball, and then Joe Tooney on the offensive side. So we came out relatively healthy. There's really nothing to report. We'll see how Hollywood works out. This with all of his tests that he's going to have this week, but we'll just see where he's at. But other than that, I really don't have anything to report in that area.
It's a good thing, as he said, they came out relatively healthy from that game, because we have seen over the weekend a lot of teams not, and that's what happens first couple of weeks. You start to see this mash unit. It happens over the course of the season, but it always feels like it's so much more jarring when it's week one, and it's like, man, this guy's lost for the year. All right, this guy's lost. Tampa Bay lost, 2 or 3 defensive backs in the game, one for the season with the broken leg and the dislocated ankle. There have been some rough injuries this weekend. Still no update on Puka Nacua.
Yeah.
And how bad that is. Jordan Addison left the game early. They think he has avoided a season ender with a bad ankle injury. He's going to be week to week until he's suspended by the NFL. That'd be the best thing, is like suspend him right now if he's going to be out for like 4 or 5 weeks. Go ahead and Raj, go ahead and get it done, man. Let's go. But yeah, there's some a lot of injuries, and the Chiefs did, knock on wood for the rest of the season. But in week one, they came out relatively healthy. Jesse Newell asked about Kingsley Suamata'ia's debut performance.
Yeah, so I thought Kingsley did some good things. He'll plenty to work on going forward. But for his first time jumping in there against what I really think is a pretty good defensive line now. So I thought he held his own. But there are things that he's got to work on and needs to get. He's got another big challenge coming up this week, as does the whole offensive line.
Hey, Andy, I asked you this after the game the other day, but I'm curious whether you maybe can elaborate after watching the video now. Do you feel like Worthy had an impact on that game beyond just the times he got the ball?
Yeah, I think they definitely gave him. They honored his speed for sure, with how they played when he was in. So, and then the impact, other than the plays he made, I thought he did a nice job there. I think he showed that he can not only go down the field when needed, he can also, and I know it was a busted coverage, but he can do that, and that he does have speed and some versatility going across the middle. He had a nice grab across the middle. So I think people, obviously the teams that we play will see that. They didn't know it before; they know it now.
I believe all of your kickoffs went into the end zone for a touchback. Why did you feel like that was the best strategy, at least at this point of the season?
Yeah, we just kind of went off the stats that we had, and we felt that was the best way to go. If you can, in a perfect world, if you can kick it right to the goal line and kind of skip it down in there, that'd be great. But as you saw the games yesterday, you saw people trying to do that, and then it bounces out of bounds, or they get it before the end line or the end zone line and goal line, and then they return it for a big return. So, and then you look at vice versa, this saying, well, we had a chance to return it, we got to pass a 30, and that's just kind of what it is. You got to be spot on with the kick, and that's a lot to ask.
It is interesting. That was one of the things that came out from Thursday that, directly after the game and the next day when we're making our bigger observations and seeing what happened in the game and talking about some of the bigger aspects of that game, that now that the game is over, we've got this week to talk about some of the other things that took place and look ahead to the Bengals, that every single kick, they kicked it out of the back of the end zone each and every time. And was it the Bills that the Bills kicked one out of bounds and gave the Cardinals the ball at the 40? The Cardinals, or was it flipped? Was it the Cardinals that kicked it out of bounds and gave the Bills the ball at the 40?
Yep, and then it was the Bills that gave up the first ever.
Yeah, the Bills gave up this. So
touchdown.
both in that one game, you got a kickoff return touchdown, you got a kickoff out of bounds when they were trying to skip it away from one of the returners and into the end zone, and it skipped right out of bounds, so you gave them an extra 10 yards on that. So Andy Reid simply, I guess the strategy is, until we get this thing fully figured out, until we get something to where we feel comfortable we can be consistent, we know consistently we can put them at the 30 and be done with it. And it is not punitive enough.
Yeah.
They
35?
They felt the 35 was too punitive.
Yes.
Now the 30 feels like it's not punitive enough.
The
to some.
analytics of the scoring drives that happen on versus the 30 versus the 35 start is massive.
Really?
Yes, a massive gap. That's why they were actually having everyone assumed that there was this last minute owners meeting was to push it back or push it up to the 35 so that people wouldn't touch back, because most teams analytically were saying, yeah, we'll give you 5 yards. We won't give you 10.
Yeah.
We'll give you 5.
Right. That's interesting.
I kind of am with, though, Andy and the Chiefs'
Yeah, me
method
too.
here, because if you kick it the 5 or even the 1, we saw Carson Steele at times take it out, and he still gets the 32 or 33, and it just goes north-south. As long as you don't try and bounce around, you're going to get past the 30.
Your defense is good enough.
Yeah.
Your offense, I think, is going to be one of the top 2 or 3 offenses in the NFL.
Yep.
You don't need to take a risk on giving the other team a touchdown on special teams or a short field by having a return to the 40 or the 45 or kicking it out of bounds or trying to get too cute or something like that, or having a horse collar tackle or a face mask or something along those lines. Yes, there could be a penalty on the kickoff return team like the Chiefs had, and then you're backed up a little bit further. You take your chances that, okay, the odds of them getting past the 30 or more versus the odds of maybe they'll have a penalty. The conversation continued. Pete Sweeney followed up about how they'll handle Hollywood Brown's injury and if the timeline is still the same as Tyreek in 2019.
listen, everybody's different, but it's that same type of injury. He's getting close. I know he's feeling better. We've just got to kind of see where it goes from here. They've been doing these periodic tests on him and making sure that he's heading in the right direction and scans and all that. So it looks like it's heading in the right direction. Now we just have to see where it goes from there.
Andy, from your times with week one, the unknown for some teams, you don't know what they have tendency-wise and everything. What is it about the first couple weeks for the league that creates so much of that?
Yeah, well, you really don't know. These guys all have an opportunity, like we do, to coaches, I'm saying, have an opportunity to put in new things in the off season, work on them. They're not going to show them during the preseason game. So you've got to be in a position where you're doing things that you know best, and also things that you can adjust to that they might show you. So there's got to be a little flexibility in your thinking when you go into this, the first 3 or 4 games of the season.
And then lastly, with Lou Anarumo and his defense, what about it has made it so unique over the years?
Yeah, he's got a little bit of everything, and they do it so well. And I think that's why he's so excited to have a safety back there now, because he's the director of that bunch. And but Lou is going to throw a whole lot of different pitches at you, and you got to keep swinging, because they're not all going to, you're not going to hit every one of them. I mean, he does a heck of a job with that.
It's been one of those things to where he has had the Chiefs' number in limiting what the Chiefs do offensively and the yards and the points they put up. And it's been very frustrating watching the Chiefs' offense against the Bengals. The most successful they looked was that first half of the AFC Championship game. And then that all flipped, and it was the worst offense that we've seen with Patrick Mahomes in a very, very long time. Maybe that,
ever. That was the worst half of football by
that
far.
Washington game that they played a number of years ago that was like really terrible.
It was like 13-10 or
at halftime. They came out better in the second half, but that first half was
the
like
Titans game.
Titans game was pretty bad,
But I still think
but that first half of Washington was like, I don't know who this person is. What is this offense doing? It was very frustrating. But Lou Anarumo, he's been pretty good, if not the best, it seems, against the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. But this is as good of an offense as the Chiefs have had in a couple of years, with more weapons than the Chiefs have had. Let's see what they do. Let's see what Cincinnati does to limit what the Chiefs are able to do. Matt Derrick asked Andy Reid how he handles an off Sunday while the season is going on.
Yeah, I ran to church and then came in and watched the games right here. So watched the Bengals game on TV first. Got some work done. Our coaches were all in here, and that was it.
Is that fun for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely love it. Yeah, it's a good part of it. Probably the same thing you guys did. So I mean, you probably watch the games but we had one specific team that we had to take a peek at and see what they were doing.
Coach, I wonder if you could kind of tell us how everything graded out in your secondary now that you've had a chance to go back and look, especially opposite of Trent McDuffie on the other side of the quarterback.
Yeah, I mentioned it after the game that I thought, Williams and Watson made some nice plays on the ball. I thought the guys did a good job. I mean, are there things they would like to have back? Yeah, and that we need to keep working on? Yes, but they also made some plays in there, and I thought I took that as a positive, something we can build on. And both those two have been banged up a little bit. Watson during camp off the surgery part of it, and then just coming back, he was one of those guys that didn't get a lot of reps, and I think he's just going to keep playing himself kind of into playing shape. And then Williams missed the last little bit. with the hamstring. So anyways, it was good to get those guys going and back in the game. And then Nazi had a chance to do some things on special teams, had a big play there, and he'll keep working in there too.
I like how Andy Reid said that, he gets the Sunday off, that the last part about the secondary obviously was a big development in the game, in that Jalen Watson's play down the sideline against Zay Flowers. Okay, good. He didn't pass interfere. He didn't hold. He got his head turned around. He knocked it away. He didn't get burnt. Like, okay, there's some good there because you know what to expect with Trent McDuffie. So certainly some positives, some things to build on. And that's with a couple of guys who had been injured often. All three of those guys, Watson, Williams, and Najee Johnson, dealing with injuries through training camp. There was certainly a positive there from the secondary to see what the second cornerback was able to do.
I wonder what game he said he was watching a little closer.
Yeah, it's funny. He said
Panthers game. Yeah, the Panthers.
Clearly, he wants to see if they made a mistake by not trading Patrick Mahomes for Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I think they feel good about that strategy to stay with what they had. Bird in the hand, as they say. The devil might as well just stay with Patrick Mahomes instead of the unknown of what could be the greatest trade Patrick Mahomes for Caleb Williams. The next best, a cheaper, better Patrick Mahomes, right?
I love how he also goes, my Sunday was probably a lot like yours. So he was horizontal on the couch for about 12 hours then on Sunday just watching football. So, yeah.
Okay, so his Sunday was a lot like mine. So constantly checking his fantasy team and making live bets.
Good point.
All right, Andy.
Well, Andy, I don't know about that one, man.
I don't know that you should admit that, but the DraftKings can track that thing, okay? I don't know that you should be studying first touchdown scores for
it's
the
Sandy Reid. He's making bets as Sandy.
It's Randy Reid. It's
there
Stone Street. He and Stone Street are
I don't know
texting.
why Stone Street's around so much.
He and Stone Street. Hey, give me $5 on Geno Smith first touchdown score at 30-1.
Give me the Rashee Rice over for week 1. Got a good hunch. He's got a good game plan coming in.
I don't think Andy Reid's Sunday was like mine. One, I don't think he went to his son's flag football game in the middle of the first window. I don't think he spent an hour to an hour and a half before the first window on DraftKings and the two different fantasy leagues. And I don't think he got home from the flag football game and then spent that time at the end of the early window getting ready for the afternoon window with said DraftKings and things like that. I don't think we spent the same kind of Sunday.
If his Sunday counts as a continuation from Saturday night playing Golden Tee at a dive bar, then maybe me and Andy are a lot more similar than I thought.
Yes. All right. Last one's Rin Petro asked Andy Reid about how Samaje Perine is progressing in the offense.
I think he's got it down where I'm comfortable with him playing. So it's good to have those three guys that you feel comfortable with. And, Perine's always been a real good, excuse me, Jamie. He's always been a good protection guy and a third down back as well as a first or second down back. But somebody you feel real comfortable in there playing on third down with all the crazy blitzes that take place.
And then along those lines, whether it's somebody who's holding out or nowadays holding in or hurt, what's kind of your experience tell you on how long it takes to get a guy physically to where he's 100% football shape, ready to go? How do you gauge that? And is there a rule of thumb you go by?
Yeah, listen, you want to get them through the first 3 days and then it's giddy up and go. I mean, unfortunately, when the season gets going, you got to get them in and they got to play.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens as they continue moving forward. We will move forward. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling, talk a little bit about what we heard from Andy Reid there and Samaje Perine. Quote, I think he's got it down where I'm comfortable with him playing. So that's good. Quick. And I really, really like the addition of Samaje Perine. We'll take a timeout, come back. More Zone next. All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Mick Schaefer coming up in the next hour. We'll talk a little bit about what we heard from Andy Reid. He ended there talking about Samaje Perine, talking about that he's got it down and he feels comfortable with him playing. You look to a couple of years ago, I mean even last year, but to a couple of years ago when the Bengals beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. You had Mixon, Perine, Higgins, Chase, Tyler Boyd. Yesterday against the Steelers or against the Patriots, you had Chase. I'm not saying, but I am saying. Holmes, Dylan Michaels, hanging out with Mick Schaefer, KSHP 41 Sports Director, joining us here in the zone for the final hour. We've got Learn Funny and Best coming up in the next segment. Why are you throwing a shoe?
You want it because he keeps flirting
Who
with
throws
me.
a shoe?
That's a catch.
I mean,
Keeps
really?
floating.
Throwing a shoe.
That's a catch right there. Do you see? He tried throwing it, and from
Every time.
hands team.
Yeah. And then the camera's a
He
one.
nudges my
it's a
foot
one
with
shot
his
on me,
foot and then
you guys are
smiles
throwing
with that
shoes back and
stupid
forth.
mustache smile and winks at me every
Cameras-
single show.
Camera's just showing me, and you
So,
guys
Mike,
are
if
throwing
you want to,
shoes.
if you want to,
Yeah.
if you want to nudge that shoe, you can have it. It's
Well,
all
I
yours.
caught it too. It's pretty.
Oh yeah,
I'm
you're
not-
amazing. You're
Who do you- who
amazing
do you
at
think I-
catching a shoe from 3 feet away. You're amazing at it.
Hey, dudes, will you stop?
Good one.
They're hey dude shoots.
What?
So people
They are.
they could
Oh.
they didn't know.
Well, what are the odds of that? Huh?
Well, 100% for me.
Probable, yo. The odds are probable that
Very
Mick Schaefer's
probable.
wearing some Hey Dudes. Mick, what's up, brother? How are you?
Nothing much.
Did you enjoy your Sunday off?
No, I worked Sunday.
Oh, what?
What are you talking about?
Oh, well, you didn't
I don't
get
play
Sunday
for
off
the Chiefs.
Oh, okay.
I worked Sunday.
I worked too. I've got to
you?
watch all the games to be prepared for this.
We had to tell the family. It's like
We had
this is work,
reactions.
guys. Honey, take the kids. Shut the door.
Yeah.
Don't bother me.
We had reactions from the weekend. If I didn't watch all the games, how would I know what to react to? I mean, that's pretty obvious right there. You know.
In your role, you need to watch most of the games.
Thank you.
In mine, I could fake it for 2 minutes. You can't fake it for 4 hours. It's harder to fake it for 4 hours.
That's a good point. Yes. But I also mixed in my son's flag football game along the way.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then you got the full 3 o'clock window to be left alone to just watch football.
Do you do? I like this that YouTube TV has now. When you replay the game that you recorded, it's like here are the 32 biggest plays.
Yep.
And I feel like it gives you a good idea, but I kind of feel like I'm missing it. But I did that for the K-State game because I was gone doing stuff during that, and for the KU game, which I watched but was inebriated, so I don't remember a whole lot
Nice.
about
Welcome
it.
to the club.
So
The inebriated club.
I was in that club long before you, buddy.
Yeah, that's.
Oh
true.
yeah, I was.
Yeah,
I didn't
welcomed
know
you
if
to the
maybe-
club. I actually signed off on your membership.
Is it like the SNL thing where it's like the 5-time host?
That's right, I have a jacket.
You're
I have a
giving
jacket.
jacket for this.
I don't know if maybe you were needing to watch the KU or K-State game later because you were watching Oklahoma State survive Arkansas.
Yes, that and then volleyball tournament. So a
Ooh.
lot dividing my attention.
How'd she do?
Great,
Good.
great.
Then it was worth it.
Every team I cheered for this weekend won.
There you go.
But by the skin of their teeth or the
Mill Valley
toes of
had
their
it.
feet.
They had it all the way.
They
Mill
won by
Valley
7.
They had it all the
They
way.
won by 7.
They had it in
They
the
did
bag.
not have it all the way because there was one fan in the stands saying it's over, game's over, season's over.
Was it you?
Yeah, it was me.
Is this volleyball or is this
That was
Friday
Oklahoma
night.
State?
And
Oh,
then,
okay.
then
Friday
Oklahoma
night.
State,
Oh.
double overtime. I think they lost because it felt like Oklahoma State and Arkansas were both trying to lose that game. So they lost at trying to lose it by winning.
The game was kind of over until Bowman then starts to point the
The
guns.
guns at the you can't do that. What? No.
It's like the who was the player
for LSU.
for LSU that was shooting the guys, and then he goes to the side and was like,
Well-
all I was doing was just shooting them.
Well, he only had pistols.
That's a
right?
good point.
And so the
Pistol
LSU guy
Pete.
had looked like maybe an AR or something like
yeah,
that.
PD pistol. You know,
What an idiot. You've played a horrible game the entire day.
Yes.
You come up with the play of the game to totally redeem yourself.
And a beautiful
you cannot let that happen.
I texted Mick, what a throw, and then,
and then pew, 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 pew.
15-yard penalty taunting on him.
On him.
It's the first time he's made a great throw all game, and that's when he taunts.
Put your head down. You're 30. You're a 7th-year college player. And speaking of experience, Mike Gundy has spent his entire adult life in college football, right? From 18 years old on. And he just sits on the ball for a 40-plus yard field goal to win it.
Dude, I could
What
not
are we
believe that.
doing?
Could not believe that.
Well,
Oh,
I wouldn't
they missed the
want
field
to
goal.
do
We're
that in
good.
the NFL. We're good. It's 42 yards.
With a college kicker, it's all good,
yeah,
man.
he's made all the others today.
Yeah, no, it's not a big deal. Oh, you're settling for the field goal. You're typically settling for either overtime or a loss. It's just.
And then I
it's
knew
absurd.
Central Michigan was about to happen with the refs getting it wrong at the end because Gundy, he's kind of always right. Everybody makes fun of him at the time, but later they're like, no, Gundy was right. Especially with the rules, he knows, and it was a great what he threw out this 4th and 4. they were going to kick the field goal to go up, but he runs his offense out there because they have timeouts left.
Sure.
And they did and they were going to basically freeze play, right? You know, they're not
Hard
going to
count,
play
yeah.
and try to get jump off sides because 5-yard penalty. They had first down, and then they could run the clock down and kick the field goal with no time.
Yeah.
And so he does a deal where the quarterback claps, and that sends a guy in motion.
Tight end goes in motion.
Well, that also caused the Arkansas player to jump, to which the O State guy moves and points at him and all that. And everybody thinks it's an offsides. Well, the SEC crew said, no, you cannot do that. You cannot clap to send a guy in motion. And even though Gundy was like, we've had the Big 12 officials in here all summer long working with, and they said that is legal. And the SEC crew says not. And he's like, just get these guys in a room. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
And so.
Because it was offsides.
It was offsides.
It should have been first down.
And so, by what he knew, and then same deal, there was a crackback block earlier in the game where they had been told, he said, we talked to 3 of the officials. They said that block was legal. I guess we did not talk to enough of the officials because one of them threw a flag.
It's like
So,
Nicole
anyway.
Hardman saying that, well, I asked about it, and they said that was a touchback, but New York disagreed.
Exactly.
New York disagreed on that. And it's like,
that's a frustrating part of, like, if you're checking beforehand and you're like talking to these guys, and Mike Gundy knows more about rules than
It's like
you.
offensive lineman, they look, or like wide receiver, they look to see if they're lined up correctly. They give them the thumbs up, and then they're like, "Oh, sure," and then they still throw. You're like, I just
Same
checked,
deal.
guy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of like different officiating crews, like right now on Twitter, maybe it's not the same algorithm for everybody, but one of the things that's trending is K-State, and it's a lot of people complaining about the offensive pass interference. Still complaining about the offensive pass interference at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And the Big 12 officiating crew, right? Big 12 crew. I said this earlier in the show. I don't want to hear a damn thing about offensive pass interference when the Tulane player fumbled the football after the scoop and score. K-State's up 7 with 8 minutes to play, and he fumbled the ball inside the 20. He wasn't near down. His legs were on a K-State body. His arms were going down, and the ball is out before anything touches the ground. And the call stands. No, that's K-State ball up 7 at the 20-yard line. At worst, they kick a field goal. They're up 10, and your offensive pass interference bitching and moaning is moot. Like, don't complain about that when you clearly got away with one. That was K-State ball in the red zone, and that was an obvious fumble. That was so clear that it was a fumble that I was shocked. It's one of the more surprising reviews I've seen outside of the Royals that went the opposite way of what everything on TV and every video angle showed was a correct call.
Well, as I told Lebo last night, Houston got a safety. OU picked up the safety, contacting the player at the half-yard line when he was clearly outside.
Yep.
I think a lot of times these guys are ex-officials. They know the guys on the field. So if it is close, even though it's like cut and dry, no, I see that, they're going to err on the side of their buddies,
That
man.
was at the 1-yard line. It almost, Kenneth Walker in the game almost broke a tackle in the end zone. He was at the 2-yard line, caught the ball. They had already had 2 safeties, and he was getting tackled, pushed back to the 1, pushed back to the half-yard line, and he started to get away, and they pushed him into the end zone, and as he's starting to get away, the official blows the whistle. I'm like, Kenneth Walker's lucky they blew the whistle, because if he breaks that tackle and he's in the end zone, now it's a safety.
He's restarting his forward progress.
Now it's a safety,
yes.
but they marked it at like the 1. I'm like, dude, he got so lucky. Like, I don't know why. I get it. They're fighting. They're fighting for extra yards. It's tough, that, competitive instinct to, I'm about to break this tackle, now I can get more, but you just lost 4 yards by breaking that tackle.
I don't get it, actually. I don't. When Patrick Mahomes, right, can go to catch his own pass and not knock it down and catch it to where he knows the clock will still run, if he can process it that quick, if we have guys in Major League Baseball, right, that can field it at shortstop just like that and know immediately whether to go to second for 2 or to first or home or whatever and make all those, I mean, guys can make that. A Hail Mary on 4th down, don't intercept it. Knock it down. Yeah. Oh, I wasn't thinking. No, you should have been. You can do that. And so Kenneth Walker could have thought there.
Or the
you are comparing everyone to Mahomes, and that is kind of on you, Mick.
Or Jaleel McLaughlin for the Broncos, also Bo Nix. Like, I think it's at the end of the first half, and the time's running down, and they don't have any timeouts or something like that. And Bo Nix is about to get sacked, and he throws the ball to McLaughlin, who then catches it and gets tackled. for like a -8 yards. Like, just knock it down.
Knock it down.
There are people all over you. There's a guy holding you. You're blocking him. The ball's coming to you. You've got the clock is running. Why would you catch that and you got immediately tackled? Also, Bo Nix, why would you throw it? Like, he's a rookie. McLaughlin's been in the league at least 1 year. But yes, those sort of things that in the heat of the moment, in the heat of the battle, it's like.
He's a rookie, but that doesn't mean it's the first year he's played football.
Right.
He's gone through all of college and all of high school. And before that, to where, like, I mean, it just baffled me. It's like, and maybe it's the difference between the athletic and the unathletic, to where, like, a lot of these guys are nowhere near students of the game, right? And they're just like, I'm going to get the ball, I'm going to run fast, and damn the consequences.
Well, I've thought about,
and strategy is so very rarely computed in there.
How often do players and coaches just sit and veg out and watch games like we do and see so many end-of-game strategies, little things here and there that are taking place just in a regular game, as opposed to I'm watching film, I'm studying this defense, I'm seeing what they're going to do, I'm seeing how this cornerback is guarding that wide receiver, all right, I'm seeing what their formations are so I know which wide receiver I'm going to take on this route. Coach is doing the same thing, breaking down film, as opposed to just us just sitting around just watching football over and over with late game timeouts, strategies, things like that. I think that, a lot of times fans are more equipped in those situations than the coaches because we watch more just actual football games than breaking down film. I don't watch film. I'm not breaking down coverages. They have a master's degree to my elementary education on that. That's fine. But end of game strategy, I think I'm pretty good. I think I'm pretty good when to use a timeout, when to spike the ball, when to keep going, things like that. I think pretty good on some of those things.
And to be fair, a lot of times that's the only thing we're thinking about as opposed to the head coach
Agreed.
who has a million things going on
Especially
in his
if they're a play
earpiece and a
caller.
lot of stuff to think about with play calling and with personnel and all that stuff. That's why, I mean, a lot of teams often will have that coach that is thinking ahead. He is the game manager, and he's the one saying, okay, we got a timeout here. Okay, if we first down, we got to immediately call timeout, that kind of stuff.
Andy Reid gave an update on Hollywood Brown, saying he was asked about this the Tyreek Hill. It's been compared to the Tyreek Hill injury, and the Tyreek Hill timeline would be that he would play this weekend against the Bengals. And he said it's the same type of injury. He's talked about that before. Said he's close. They're doing periodic tests and scans. He's heading in the right direction. We'll have to see where it goes from there.
Falcons is what it seems like.
Falcons is, I mean, unless he's keeping his cards close to the vest and you don't want to let the Bengals know that Hollywood Brown might play.
Did he have a vest on?
Yeah, he did. It was weird. It's the first time I've seen him wear a sweater vest.
Oh, a sweater vest.
I have no
A
idea.
little toasty for that. I thought it was going to be more like a suit vest or something.
No, well, this morning it was a little chilly. Maybe
he could use a sweater
he got to the office at like 5 in the morning. This is Andy Reid. He's burning the midnight and the morning oil. Do you burn morning oil? Or is it just midnight oil?
No, it's the you're burning the candle from both ends. I think is
That's what he's doing
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, that's definitely what he's doing. But yeah, he's there early. He's got a nice little sweater vest, and he plays cards throughout the day. Just to get strategy, game theory, just gaming some things.
Playing
out.
Rook, or what's he playing? What kind of game?
Poker, man. Seeing what he's going to do against Zach Taylor. What strategy.
I like Andy Reid versus Zach Taylor.
I do too, especially early in the season.
Yes, please.
Zach Taylor's
Sign me
record. One of my reactions from this weekend, we did reactions, and then the rest of us decided if that's actually an overreaction, that our reactions or overreactions, whatever. One of my takeaways, reactions from the weekend is that I think Zach Taylor is the worst coach in the history of the NFL at getting his team ready to play for the beginning of the season. He's 1-10.
He is the anti-Andy Reid, is he not?
In the first 2 weeks of the season, his team is 1-10. 1-10. And they're about to be 1-11 in 6 years in the first 2 weeks of the season. And the one win was an overtime win.
They got an entire team of guys who major in just popping off, man. They just wait for the post-game interviews to just say stuff.
Well, Jamar
The
Chase
Ravens may have
some
learned
things.
from them too. The Ravens, I think, Isaiah Likely must be hanging out with
That
too many.
entire division.
Yeah.
They're just known.
At least
I
the
think,
Ravens showed that they were competitive in the game, and they were there, and it was, looked like they were good enough to sort of, win that game against the defending champions. I mean, the Bengals no-showed the Patriots with, Jacoby Brissett and Gerard Mayo. Like, they had nothing offensively, and yet the Bengals still lost when they had nothing offensively. And then Jamar Chase certainly had some things to say after the game was over by not saying things.
What did he?
Oh, he was asked, like, you weren't targeted down the field. Any reason why? You got to ask Zach about that. Got to ask Zach that. Ask the coach.
Stuff that would never happen in Kansas
Hell no.
City.
You would never hear a wide
Well,
receiver
we've heard
go,
it. Was it? Who was it? Was it McCoy or Bell?
Bell. Yeah, Le'Veon Bell that came out and had some things.
Popped
to
off
say
after, though. He was with the team.
with the team.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This stuff
But
never happens.
Can you imagine a wide receiver? It's like, well, you didn't connect with Patrick Mahomes. He wasn't really.
You got to ask Andy that
ask
one.
Andy. Ask Andy why I'm not getting looks.
Hear that
deep.
pink slip in your locker 5 minutes later.
Okay, we will ask. Are you sure you want to stay? Are
you sure? We're going to give you another chance on this one.
Are you sure about that?
3, 2, 1.
Yes.
We'll just cut that out. We'll cut it. It's not live.
We'll
cut it.
We're
We'll
on
cut
your
it.
side here.
Yeah,
okay?
is that fine? Like, we don't want you to get cut. You're all Burrow has. You're the only guy he has right now. So, also, they're focusing the defense on you, and you're all they have. Like, is that fun now?
Yeah, Josevich was getting a ton of looks, which I have no idea how his name's pronounced, Josevich, but apparently it is.
Iosivic, like, duh.
Yeah.
It's the standard spelling.
Biblical spelling, right? Traditional spelling of Josevich.
At first, they're saying Josevich. I'm like, oh, are they saying
Is that the same guy?
Is that
is another guy?
You mean Iosivic? Iona Civic, Iosivic. No, Josevich. No, Josevich.
Jurcevic.
Jurcevic.
Not my Civic.
Don't call me that. Jurcevic. Did you see what that guy called me? Unbelievable. So the Chiefs have Samaje Perine. Houston has Joe Mixon. Somebody has Tyler Boyd. I'm not sure.
Tennessee
has Tyler Boyd. The injury report has T. Higgins.
Falcons have Jesse Bates.
But I mean just like targets.
Oh, just offensively.
2 years ago, they came into Kansas City and won in the AFC
The
Championship
Bengals
game.
still have Orlando Brown.
That's right.
Hey, is Hayden Hurst still there?
No.
He's
2
gone too. Yeah, he's
Hayden Hurst is gone. I'm trying to think.
2 years ago, they came into Kansas City with Mixon, Perine, Higgins, Chase, Boyd. And they yesterday had Chase.
Barely.
Yeah.
Barely. The hold in. We didn't know he was going to play until late.
Burrow had 160 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and was not pressured. And had all day to throw. 35 dropbacks for Joe Burrow, pressured 6 times. Faced 6 pressures on 35 dropbacks, and he threw for 160 yards in the game.
Wow, that's last year Russell Wilson numbers.
I don't know. I guess maybe having playmakers for some quarterbacks does matter. Just depending on the quarterback, I guess. Not every quarterback, but some quarterbacks certainly need playmakers around them.
Funny how things have cycled through. I think I saw like it was maybe through the Sunday night game or before the Sunday night game last night. There have been a total of like 33 touchdown passes all across the NFL in week 1. As compared to like 4 years ago, it was like 63.
Yeah.
And last year was like 37. So they're threatening on just being even worse than last year of how defenses have kind of made their move, and it's now time for the offense to.
Well, I think there's a little differences too. I think there were more rushing. Was that total touchdowns or
no passing?
That's passing. I feel like we saw a good amount of rushing touchdowns yesterday,
Maybe.
and I think we saw a good amount of. Again, not sustainable, but we saw a few defensive touchdowns, probably more than an average week. We saw a couple of special teams touchdowns, right? Probably a few more than an average week. So I wonder how much that takes into account as well. I do think passing numbers were down, and you looked around in fantasy football, just in general, right? Baker's really holding this up, and he was on most people's waiver wire, I think. But yeah, I do think there were a good amount of rushing touchdowns, some defensive touchdowns, and for sure 3 or so special teams touchdowns that I think maybe
I know one.
Take a chunk.
I remember. Oh, there was 2. So there was the Cowboys and the Cardinals, a punt return and a kickoff return. Was there another one?
The Bears had 2, right?
So they had 2 defense,
but did they have what was the special teams? I know 2 of them.
Somebody
Arizona
had a kickoff return, right?
Arizona had a kickoff return
and a punt,
and Turpin for the Cowboys had a punt return.
And I don't think
are the 2 that I remember.
The Bears just had
defensive touchdowns.
2,
but they also
and the Broncos had 2 safeties.
They did.
No, but they would have had
lost. And still lost.
They had so many weird scores in that game that the scoring eventually looked normal, right? At one point it was 5-3, but then later it was like what was it? It was 9-8, then it was 10-9. And you're like, okay, I can see 10-9. Right. Like, no, there was 2 safeties involved in that 10-9 score.
10.
And 26-20.
Yes, unbelievable, man. Do you guys have a preference for your favorite bad quarterback performance?
We have Caleb, and we have
Caleb, Deshaun, We have Daniel Jones.
Bryce Young.
We have Kirk Cousins. We have Bo Nix. We have Will Levis. We got a lot to choose from.
Yeah, Will Levis,
I'm going to go
does he
either
make it?
Caleb or who was the second one he said?
I think Deshaun's my
Deshaun,
favorite.
yeah,
I
just
like
because-
to see him fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like to see him fail for sure.
Joe Burrow goes into that bad category from yesterday at least. He was brutal.
He and Williams out of that group are the only two that did not have an interception. Both of them 0 touchdowns.
Did
0
Mahomes
interceptions.
lead the league with 291 yards? Anybody go over 300?
Baker.
Oh, yeah,
No,
he had a
Baker at
great
289.
289.
Matt Stafford had
Stafford
313.
Somebody had 330, right? Was there Tua?
Tua had
Tua had like
330.
338 or something like that.
80 on one play.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, right after a fumble into the end zone.
338.
Jaguars
for Tua.
can completely stranglehold, and all of a sudden their hands cramped up.
Yeah.
Like, we were strangling, and now our hands are cramped up. What happened? And Tyreek 80-yard touchdown. And then he got arrested by his teammate. That was odd. Jalen Waddle then arrested him.
I think
Weird.
only
A couple times.
2 quarterbacks went over 300 yards.
So it was just Stafford and Tua?
Just Stafford and Tua, and
So
only a
then
few went
Mahomes
over
was-
200. There wasn't many.
Yeah.
Like 230 felt like a great day.
All 7 of those that I just said, or 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all 8 of those quarterbacks I just said were, the most was 186, Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones was 22 of 42, 186, no touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
Feels like 186, at least for a long time. You just fell into that, right?
Right.
That's a bad game. You've done nothing.
You felt
That's like your
what is-
base
What is
was
DraftKings
186.
doing with 225 yards as an over-under? Isn't that like a first half sort of line? Those 8 quarterbacks combined for averaging 149, 3 touchdowns and 10 interceptions.
How
out
about
of those 8.
Derek? How about Derek Carr?
Derek Carr was good.
23 attempts, completed 19 of them, only 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, Derek Carr was just incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
Like we always said about Derek Carr, right? Incredibly
always say.
efficient. Just
Yeah. I mean, deep thrower. That's what we've always looked at Derek Carr. There was some interesting things over the weekend. And you know what? I wanted to point out too, real quick. We'll take a break. We'll get into Learn Funniest Best. Andy Reid was asked about tendencies by Nick Jacobs. I don't know who he works for. Oh, he does a podcast with Matt Derrick.
41 is the mic.
Yep,
It's
Nick
the only
Jacobs
thing
does
he's known
41
for.
is the mic. And asked about different tendencies early on and breaking those and how you sort of go through the. Did you see the stats on Atlanta and the Falcons in a tendency? So Atlanta was in the pistol or shotgun 96% of their snaps. Okay, so first and foremost, 96% of the snaps in the pistol or shotgun. 22 snaps in shotgun, 0 designed runs. 22 snaps in shotgun, 0 designed runs.
So it's all RPO.
26 snaps in pistol, 24 runs.
Oh, my God. You think the NFL coaches picked up on that?
They're running, guys. They're going to run. How do you know?
Pistol.
They're the running backs behind the quarterback because the quarterback's Achilles is still hurting him, so he's not going to go under center to run back and hand the ball off to Bijan. So he's going to just take the snap and turn around and give it to
Wow.
him. Oh, they're in shotgun. The running back's next to him. I think it's going to be a pass here, guys. Let's pass.
I don't think I'm smarter than any NFL head coach, but sometimes I wonder, like, just run 2 run plays out of shotgun just to like get them. You know,
That's as drastic.
you're probably getting 10 yards because they know they think you're
Most
passing.
of the time, coaches do that. I think they swing the other way. They're like they try to get too creative,
Or like-
have too much variety to where like, okay, that play is working. Let's not put it in the bag for 4 games. Let's run it again.
Just keep
next
doing it.
quarter.
Make them stop you.
go.
Don't stop yourself. Make them stop you. And
Yes.
Derrick Henry, whenever he's on the field, they knew was a run play.
Under center,
Hey,
Derrick Henry
why,
running the ball.
Why not a play action? Why not a screen pass to him? No one would have
do
seen
it
that
out of
coming.
a different formation if you feel like you got to get creative.
That's as stark of a tendency as I can remember in the NFL. In the NFL,
Yeah, it's crazy.
that it's just shotgun, 0 runs, 22 snaps, 26 snaps in pistol, 24 runs. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We get Learn Funniest Best coming up next. Citywide Remodelers. In business since 1955, locally owned and operated. If you're ready to turn your house into your dream home and upgrade your bedroom, kitchen, bathrooms, whatever it might be, top-notch craftsmanship. Visit Citywide Remodelers at citywideremodelers.com. My wife is designing her dream closet right now with Citywide Remodelers. We've been wanting to turn our house that we've been in for 5 years. It was turnkey, but we wanted to make it more of ours, right? So we felt like we're moving into somebody else's house. You know, we moved into our house in Louisville. We redid a bunch of stuff. So it was like, all right, these are our touches that are on this house. We haven't done that here. So, done having kids.
Sorry, dogs.
Ways to prevent that, too.
Knock on wood is the only way to
is
to prevent it, yeah.
I hear it's Dr. Pepper.
No, I saw on NBC with talking about Simone Biles with the vault. Anyway, so we have our sitting areas, like the extra in our room. That's kind of the nursery area. So we have taken that, and we're turning that into her dream closet.
Just her dream closet.
So
you would take the regular closet all to yourself.
My regular closet is now also, we've moved the washer and dryer upstairs into our room,
big.
Nice,
which
nice
is
touch.
awesome.
Nice
It
touch.
is awesome.
Got to get some electrical work doing that, huh?
Oh
Right?
yeah, yeah. They've
It's a big old deal.
They started last Tuesday. They've been there, and my wife spent all weekend with like this. I don't know what you call like the architectural paper that has all these small little squares all over, and you can map out like all the feet and the inches and the entire room. She spent all weekend designing every single inch and outlet and where the lights are going to go and where the vanity and the hanging, the dresses and where the drawers and where the storage and this is where the sweaters are going to go.
Where the wine is going to be.
Yes.
Because I'm going to live here.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, so Citywide Remodelers, they have been awesome to work with, including us in the middle of them moving the washer and dryer hookups upstairs to us going, what if we put it on the other side of this closet? And they said, well, if you're going to do that, we need to know now. And so we talked about it. They figured out how to do it. We went through the whole process, figuring out how to do it, and they were awesome. And then we told them, never mind, we're going to stay with what we originally wanted. So, you know, we are those people.
One of those clients.
We are those people. I apologize. And instead, they were like, awesome, got a decision, let's roll. They were very excited about us just simply making a decision. I think that's what it was. I think that was the main thing.
He's going to talk about us on the radio, so put up with everything he throws at you.
Citywide Remodelers, citywideremodelers.com. If you were looking for the renovation, locally owned and operated since 1955, Carl Menino, third generation owner. So they have been great to work with, and I can't wait to get home to see how everything's starting to come together in her closet.
When's it going to be done? You're going to throw a closet party?
Yeah.
Show it off?
Yep. That's exactly right. We are.
Just all
She's going to want to
come over to your house.
Are you going
You guys want to come over?
Yeah, just start trying stuff on.
Go into it?
Let's go in.
Yeah, then I'll have to come out of it.
Let's do it. Let's all do it. You can check out the new washer and dryer hookups upstairs before we get them delivered. You know, the washer and dryer.
I can bring some laundry over.
So much more room for activity now down in the old washer and dryer room, which is now becoming our mud room.
Mud room.
Yeah.
So we got her dream closet.
How much mud are you going to bring in?
Oh, there's so much mud.
Do you get dirt first and then get water? Do you water the dirt to make the mud?
We bring in the dirt, and then it's a water room. So we just have them jump into the water to create the mud.
Oh, okay.
The mud room.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then we do like pottery and stuff in there.
Is there a kiln?
There is definitely a kiln in
build
there.
a kiln next.
Yep, Unchained Melody is playing constantly.
Okay,
in
good.
there.
Yeah.
It's a cool mud room. We're very excited about it. All right, learn funniest best.
It must be nice to have like gigantic closets and mud rooms and just.
See, I'm just a lowly co-host. I don't have that yet.
Same. I don't even know what I am.
I need to get host money, and then apparently I can have walk-in closets that are just palatial.
Well, you need to live somewhere for 5 years, and your wife talking about her dream closet, and 5 years later go, you know what? Let's do it. There you go. Christmas for the next 7 years. Which is great, because now I don't have to worry about Mother's Day, anniversary, birthday, or Christmas.
That's right. This is it.
Perpetuity, I think? I think that was the contract we signed.
That's a rule.
That was in the Citywide Remodelers contract that we signed with them. She must appreciate this forever. What I learned is that, and you kind of know this, but it was quickly, the NFL corrects itself with some of the outliers in a season wide or season long sort of numbers, and they did it quickly this weekend. For example, The Rams last year had 0 turnovers in the red zone. All year last year. Their second trip to the red zone, they had a turnover last night.
So it works.
Immediately. Cincinnati, I didn't realize this. Cincinnati last year lost 2 fumbles all year. They lost 2 fumbles yesterday against the Patriots. The NFL is like, look, you did this last year. We are going to immediately correct this. Total anomaly and an outlier. We're actually going to go the other way. Sorry, the script says you have to now lose 2 fumbles. The script says you can't go an entire year without a red zone turnover and then go another game without a red zone turnover. In fact, the Rams, this is one thing I'll count on, lots of red zone turnovers this year. Bengals are going to lose every fumble that they have this year. That's what's going to happen. And the Chiefs are going to win the turnover differential by like plus 11 or 12.
Yeah. It's like Kareem Hunt, never fumbled in his life.
That's
First NFL carry.
Hasn't fumbled since.
He really hasn't?
No.
That was his only one still?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Except for his career with the Chiefs. He fumbled,
that.
That was a big-time fumble. He dropped that one. Sterling, what'd you learn?
Yeah, I learned how to put a new battery in my Jeep all by myself. My battery in my Jeep was dead.
Like the Little Tykes Jeep?
Yeah, just a little
put
guy.
a new battery in
Yeah.
there?
No,
That's good for you, man.
And I was proud of myself. I'm not a car guy.
No.
Not a car guy. Looking at this not a car guy.
Car guys come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
I was gonna
I have
say,
the
like,
mustache
You
to
have
be
to
a
be
car
really
guy.
strong to be a car
No,
guy?
batteries are heavy. That is, they have. And the Jeep is pretty tall. It's a little awkward how you have to carry the
I know
battery.
how heavy batteries are, and I've seen a Jeep. I don't.
Yeah, they're a little difficult for a 5'10" guy like myself. Did it all by myself. Even greased the knobs.
Oh, don't worry. Dylan's already marked it. Keep going.
Oh, you marked that one. You pay attention then, not the plethora of ones that
we heard
Mick.
that. Now get back to
I
your
marked them all.
battery story. You grease the
Dylan-
knobs. Get back to your battery story.
Yeah, and then I put the.
And then you made the connection. Look, when you're talking,
I did it
Dylan's-
myself, and
Dylan
I'm
pays
really proud
attention
of
when you-
myself. Okay.
Sterling, you should be proud that when you talk, Dylan pays attention. Mainly to Mark things because he knows that you're talking. Well, here we go, Sterling. See how many clips we get out of this
But
one.
I'm proud of myself.
Good
I
for you.
even used the grease and the little connector. I'm proud of myself.
for you.
As
Yes,
a
we've heard
non-car
that.
guy.
Good for you, man. You should be proud of yourself. That's a
Mick,
big deal.
okay?
It's a big deal. Now you're 18. Have you
all
changed a
grown
tire
up.
before?
Yeah, that many a time.
Okay,
Changed
good.
tire.
Many a time.
Good. Windshield wipers?
Haven't needed to.
I would hope
Okay.
so. Those are.
Anyway, go ahead. Mick learned.
I learned that there's something Tom Brady's not good at. It's broadcasting games.
It was a rough debut.
I feel like, it was a rough debut.
It was a rough
I
debut.
felt bad for Greg Olson being teamed with Joe Davis, whatever game they were on, but they were going
Greg Olson's so
at the
good.
same time.
Oh, Greg Olson's
And
so good.
and I think they caught lightning in a bottle with Tony Romo, and they would catch it with Peyton Manning if he ever joins the booth. But yeah, rough. How much money did he get to do that?
10 years, $137 million.
I thought it's more than that.
Did you see Antonio Brown's tweet about it? Antonio Brown tweeted, maybe someone should have listened
Or
to
10 years, 307.
Yeah, I think
million.
it's
Sorry,
300 some,
There was
yeah.
a 3 and a 7. Yeah,
Yeah.
370. It was $37 million per year. 10 years, 370. Sorry about that. Yeah, he's not making $13 million per year. That's chump change.
That's what he deserves.
He's making Daniel
Nothing.
Jones money.
Yes.
Antonio Brown said maybe someone should have listened to Tom Brady actually say words before dropping $300 million on him.
Yeah, that's what I said about Romo, and then he shot out of a cannon was great.
Romo immediately was really good, and it's worn down.
Yes.
His enthusiasm was like right out of the gates. Brady looked like a rookie quarterback in
He
his
was like
first
trying
game.
to like fill the role and just say the cliches and not step on anybody's toes. Tony Romo came out, didn't know the rules, and would just say, "Hey, here's what's coming here." He would talk over Jim Nantz, say stuff in the middle of the place, and it just worked because it was new and refreshing, and people liked it.
I'll hold out judgment for a few more weeks.
I won't.
for
I've already
Brady
made
to-
my learned.
That's
He
all good.
seemed nervous.
He was very nervous.
When they brought him in, and he kind of mentioned it too, so I'll give him a little chance to,
he was
to
very
pump the
nervous.
brakes. But when he
which
first
means
came in,
don't throw him on the number one crew right away.
they even had him on the pregame show, and they were like going back and forth, joking around. And then they actually tried to get into analysis with him, and he just clammed up. And I was like, dude,
They need him
relax.
to be ready. They need him to be ready for February 9th on the Super Bowl call. That's what they need him to be ready for. Dylan, what'd you learn?
So I learned Gene Steratore had a great tweet. He put up that his phone on his birthday, he had a couple pictures here. One is the messages, and it's only got 3 messages on his birthday. My phone when there's an illegal formation penalty on a Sunday. He put the FaceTime one on that one and put 25 notifications there, 99 plus on his messages. So Gene making a little funny there, just saying that he never gets contacted unless
Unless there's something like that happening.
Yep.
Funniest for you, Sterling?
I walked to Sonic because my car was dead. I had a fun night Friday night, and then or no Saturday night. I mean,
this probably relates back to the battery.
You recharge your batteries at Sonic.
My battery wasn't there.
Did your car die after you put the new battery in?
No,
Or
it's
before?
good
Okay,
now.
that's good.
Before. But so my car was dead. I had to, and then I had to find a way to get because I wanted food. So I brought my bike up from downstairs. I haven't ridden my bike in so long. Found that the tires are completely just dead. There was no air in the
flat.
tires.
Yeah, that
So I
happens.
had to walk my ass to Sonic.
Good for you.
And if you saw a guy depressingly walk to Sonic, that was
How
me.
far's the
you.
walk?
I thought that was you.
It's not very far, like a mile
It's like
and a
3
half
minutes.
mile.
The funniest for you, Mick?
Funniest for me is that apparently Deion Sanders has told the Colorado band they cannot play the fight song after a Shadur Sanders touchdown pass because the stadium needs to play Shadur Sanders' rap song.
Well, that makes sense.
Which is, what's it called?
Oh, so they won't play it at all then?
He's got his own rap song. It's called Perfect Timing.
Oh. Well, that makes sense.
Apparently that happened.
Makes sense.
They're
going
to
to
rarely hear that
touchdown.
against the when they play Big Ten teams.
Funniest for you, Dylan?
Funniest for me, Vinny Pasquantino and Bobby Witt Jr. were on the Rich Eisen show, and they asked him about Tommy Pham being in their fantasy league, and this was the answer.
Okay. And, any Tommy Pham, Jock Peterson moments in your fantasy base?
Right. But Tommy Pham is in our guillotine league. So.
Tommy Pham is on the team.
Yeah, he's on the
No,
list.
I know that.
he's in
So
there.
that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I mean,
he told me to set a timer yesterday or 2 days ago during the draft. I set a timer immediately.
No one's getting slapped out there.
There was no question.
what Tommy says goes.
I'm going to go ahead and set it.
Are the waiver wire, was
Whatever
that
he
what it
wants.
was? Was
Yeah.
it like an IR situation that he and Jock had a problem with? He accused Jock of stashing?
Stashing.
No clue, and I'm not asking.
VP. Oh, he's such a great personality.
It's such great delivery.
Tommy said set a timer, and I set a timer. My funniest from the weekend, look, it was a rough day for Bo Nix, but Adam Archuleta was doing color commentary for the Broncos, and here's what it sounded like on the second and last Bo Nix interception.
Denver playing with all 3 timeouts. 5:35 left. They're down 13. Nix. Oh no. Has all day, but it's intercepted.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
Off by Woolen.
The ball was in the air, and he said,
Oh, no.
"Oh no!" and then says, "That's not a throw you can make in the National Football League." He did throw it into triple coverage, and Archuleta saw it. Oh no! All right, quickly, Mick Best.
All right, so shout out Avery Ruth Schaefer. She asked me, she's like, Dad, will you put this on Good, Better, Best?
Yep.
I'm like, yes, I'll put it
That's
on
what
Good,
my
Better,
wife calls
Best. She is her first school volleyball tournament on Saturday. She's playing a ton of club tournaments, but she bageled a team.
Nice.
She went 25 straight serves. They won 25-0.
Wow.
They call it bagling, I guess.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, and a lot of people have never seen it. Rally scoring. I mean, all it takes is one in the net or long or whatever. 25 straight serves. At like 15-0, I'm like, put one in the net. Right? Let's make sure other girls can get in. The other team gets a point or whatever. And at 20-0, I was like, no, let's do this. Let's go. Let's get up.
Yeah.
And I got
Bagel.
loud. And
Bagel.
Yeah, she bageled a team.
Congratulations.
School ball, there's club girls
Don't
and
you
rec
downplay?
girls
Don't you
together,
downplay that?
and
She
that's
bageled it.
part of it.
Mick, don't
It's
you
never
downplay?
happened in
Hey,
a
you know
club.
what? Congratulations.
She
I think
bageled.
it's an amazing
Yeah.
performance.
Good, better, best.
Good, better, best.
Yeah.
That's the best. She was good. She was better than the opponents. And the best of the weekend was her.
Yeah.
Dylan Best? That's my best, too. Sterling?
That's also my best.
Awesome. You know what? I'm going to throw in an additional learned. Besides Mick's daughter being a stud, being the best volleyball player in the history
Ever.
of the world. So besides that.
You're
What's
on the
that?
wrong mic now, Mick. I
Yep,
think.
now you switched mics.
You switched mics on
That's
Dylan.
okay. Just turn them both
Not
on.
true.
Yep, just
Not
turn them
true.
both on, Dylan. There you go.
Wow, 2 mics.
There you go. 2 mics. Mike Schaefer over here. But I'm going to throw another learned in there. The NFL wasn't really serious about the illegal formation.
No. For 2 straight years?
They 4 illegal formation penalties on Baltimore on offensive linemen. They played 15 other games.
How many?
3. 3 illegal formation on offensive
all
linemen.
the other teams, all of the 30 teams got the message.
I mean, they learned. They clearly learned since that Baltimore game. They're all
I think that's
lining
funny.
up.
I think that's the
correctly.
best.
It is.